Someone make it make sense.
Probably a couple.
Hello, squirrels, friends of the world. How are y'all doing today? What is the weather like where y'all are at? It's been all over the place here. Looks like it might rain. We have a lot of pollen, very pollen-y here. So a couple quick updates here. We will do a Karen read some point today with latest files there. Those of you guys who were here, we did Alex cross exam. Shout out to James, by the way, who was the first like. We did Alex's cross exam, and it was magical. Couple things I want to note. So after we finished that marathon, I mean, honestly, we could have gone longer. I would very easily. I have actually thought about this. Actually, this was a side note, side announcement. I actually thought about doing like a 24-hour live stream, and like, I don't know what if it would be like to raise money or what. I don't have like a charity in my, I just was literally thinking like I could do a 24-hour live stream with Alex on the stand. No problem. No problem. In fact, I'm sure that by 24 hours, I'd be like, wait, do we have to end now? Like, really? Anyway, just saying. So, anywho, it wasn't as long as it could have been. But also welcome Gwennon. Welcome Iowa. And so anyway, but here's the thing, guys, is that I got copyrighted for certain portions of it. And guess what? You might be thinking, wait, isn't it just the CourtTV feed? Yeah, it's just the CourtTV feed. And shout out to CourtTV for never, ever, ever doing this. Here's what's crazy. It was Dateline. I got copyrighted by Dateline, and just for certain portions. So it means it's portions that they used on one of their stupid, here's 40 minutes and here's the entire Murdoch story things. You know, I mean, I'm pissed because here's the reason I'm pissed, because they have no right. It's CourtTV's court. It's the court feed. It's literally the court feed. It's the court feed. It's a public trial. I understand if you're using footage from Dateline where it's got the Dateline logo and it's got the Dateline narrative and the Dateline music. This is just literally the court feed. And if anybody was going to copyright it, it should be CourtTV. And they don't do that. And I am so livid. And I am still figuring out how much is missing. I don't know, because I had to chunk it out. And I probably could have tried to fight it. But like, I don't know. Do I want to try to fight Dateline? But they have no grounds for that. That's completely not fair. So it's hard to say, James, because it's not really clear. It's like sometimes nothing. Sometimes they like say it's warning. Other times it's like the little ones where it's a content ID claim. From what I've read online, you get a certain number of those and it can affect your channel, but they don't give a certain number. If you have a channel strike, that's different. That's where another channel is like, take the channel down. I've not had that, but like the content, the copyright content, they have all these different words, and it's just really kind of hard to even decipher. But, I always see it and I'm like, oh, well, because of the fact where it's like, a certain number of those, and then YouTube might give you a warning on your channel. I don't know. It's hard to find exact information on it, to be honest, which sucks. You sent a large waterfall on Discord. What, Iowa? So basically, I removed the content, so it should be fine. Like, I'm pretty sure it is fine. Like, that's the thing. I removed it. I deleted. So what I'm saying is, like, they only copyrighted. It's just a content ID claim, right? So it's just for certain chunks. And what it does is the chunks that they have, it just like, it tells you. It's like this minute, this second, or whatever. And there's like a few of them. And I freak out and I'm like, delete. So my point is, I don't know what all is missing from the cross, because I'm just now getting started with timestamps. But I don't switch to the Court TV feed until day 22. So they don't have it happening with the long crime feed, which is going to get to my next point here. So, oh, that's funny, Meg. But again, this is not Dateline. Not using Dateline. That's why this is annoying. It was just the Court TV court feed. That's it. That's it. No. They didn't take it down. That's what I'm saying is everything is fine. I'm saying everything is fine. The reason I'm a bit worked up is because they don't have the right. It's the court feed. If anyone were to do it, if Court TV did it, I would say fair is fair. Literally, we all use this, and Court TV never does it. So shout out to Court TV. However, I'm glad they don't, because these are public trials. No, Court TV didn't strike it, Meg. No. Court TV never strikes, ever. They don't strike. They don't content ID. Court TV says, here you go, world. Use this. It's a public trial. So shout out Court TV. No. No, it's Dateline. It's Dateline. I mean, I don't think covering up, but here's what I was going to say is that, and the other thing is it's only in certain sections too, right? So here's what I was going to say though, is that Court TV didn't use the long crime, or sorry, Dateline, and I don't think used the long crime feed. And here's the other thing. The long crime feed has all these alternate camera angles. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a bonus round of cross, and we're going to watch the Court TV feed, because that way I don't have to worry about any chunks missing. And B, we get alternate camera angles anyway from it. So it'll be great. And then we can watch it again. And last time what we did was, so last time what we did was we did the Alex Cross, and we finished it out with the sunrise, the deep dive into the sunrise detox place, where I called the detox place. What we'll do is on this bonus round is we will watch the long crime feed, and then we will do the What the Truck and Chicken Business series with that one. So yeah, it just, to me, it's like, dude, when I saw that and it was from Dateline, I'm like, I'm sorry, but see, now I feel I am protective right now for Court TV. That's not fair to them. So imagine on the Court TV feed, just like literally on the Court TV channel on their own feed, they would have had the same thing happen to them from Dateline, and Dateline doesn't own it. It's not right. It's just not right. Like, to me, this is just not right. It's not fair. And Dateline, you can't have a monopoly on the court feed. I'm sorry. Because the people who actually provided it would have the exact same thing happen to them. I'm sure they did. Like, can you imagine, like, is Court TV going to get in trouble? Like, because Dateline is copywriting Court TV's footage? I feel like that's a dystopian world we would have to live in. But that's what this is. That's what this is. Welcome, DSN. I have no idea what you're referencing there. So what I'm going to do is this. Fight, right? So what I'm going to do is this. If it happens again where Dateline tries to content ID claim or whatever they want to call it for the Court TV feed, I'm gonna see what happens if I fight it. Not because I'm like, because of me, but because of Court TV. It's not fair. It's just not fair that they do that. So yeah. So that's where I'm at with that. But you know what? At the end of the day, we get to watch it again and we can watch the alternate camera angles. That'll be super fun. And it just gives us an excuse to watch it again. Like I said, you don't gotta ask me twice. And I don't even know how much is missing because I haven't gotten there yet. It might just have been like a couple seconds at a time, but I'll be honest, a couple seconds at a time is still not okay. In some cases, it might not be noticeable, but for Alex on Cross, I will notice it and y'all will notice it, and it's not okay. So, TSN, daddy coordinates. What were you talking about with an estranged brother? Yeah, James, you're the only one not green right now, actually, I think in the chat. So that was the first news. Second piece of news. Well, we're actually not going to see any Lori, Meg. We're not going to see any Lori today. Or even hear any Lori. Actually, we're only going to hear Lori for a very short period of time. This is not Lori, though. So, oh, are you talking about her estranged brother as an Adam? Or is there another estranged brother? I don't really consider Adam. Oh, you're referencing that. Okay, right. Yeah, we watched that whatever day that was. Yeah, so before we get to today's thing, so the other update is this. Russell Lafitte, speaking of Murdoch, Russell Lafitte. So he was given a retrial for his federal because of the fact that there was some jury issues going on, clear jury issues. So he was granted a retrial. And guess what? He just took a plea deal. I don't know the terms of it yet, but he just pled guilty. So he's back. He's still in federal prison. Nothing changes there. Oh, right. Yeah, right. Oh, right. I remember. Okay, that's what you're referencing. Got it. Yeah. Yeah, that was dumb. So, okay, but the theme for this one, guys, is MIA and AZ. And what made me think of this, we had been talking about Summer Shiflet anyway, and we had been talking about Detective Moffatt because when the state rested, I was like, what? Aren't they calling Detective Moffatt? And there was supposed to be another witness, too, that they were going to call him, which they didn't. But I was like, what? I expected Detective Moffatt. Now, Detective Moffatt is who chucked the whole file down on Detective Duncan's desk and was like, your problem now. Now, he didn't say that. I'm adding that in, but that was the attitude and the context, I would say, that I took into that whole thing. The way that Detective Duncan described that was a certain way. So anyway, I was like, that's interesting. What's the deal with that? But then, of course, Summer we had already been talking about. Now, I didn't expect anyone to call Summer, but here's the thing. In the jury instructions, and I have it time-stamped, Judge Beresky actually made a note about all the people who the jury heard a lot about who are not testifying. So he mentioned JJ, Tylee, and Alex. We know why they're not testifying. But also, he said Detective Moffatt and Summer Shiflet. And he was wondering if there should be an instruction about that. Now, neither party wanted one, so there's not going to be one. But literally, this is how I got the idea, because I was already asking these questions. I'm like, wait, what? And we had already talked about wanting to go back and watch Summer's testimony from Lori's trial. So turns out, guys, Detective Moffatt, wrap your heads around this, okay? Detective Moffatt testified in the Idaho trial, but not in the Arizona trial. When he's the Chandler Police Department, he was the detective. What? I don't get it. I did a little digging, as it were, and apparently he got a promotion like 8 months ago, because I was like wondering, is he deceased? Like, that could be an explanation. Is he deceased? He's not deceased. He got a promotion like 8 months ago in the Chandler PD. He's still with Chandler PD. It's odd to me. I don't know why he's not testifying. I wish I knew. 100% Glennon. 100%. Glennon says, I was curious. Dateline and CourtTV have no affiliation whatsoever. Dateline is definitely in the wrong. Yep. Absolutely. They're in the wrong. And it's gonna, again, it's like CourtTV would have gotten the same thing. And I'm sure it's for other trials as well. If Dateline's just going through and like content ID claiming all these different cases from CourtTV, this is insane. Welcome back, Truth Seeker. So yeah. Yeah. Christy, you don't follow this case. Well, let me know if you have any questions. Meg, you have no idea what's going on? What do you mean, Meg? I think you were here. Well, so what's happened is this. So the state rested out of the blue on Thursday. They were not expected to rest. They were supposed to have other witnesses. They rested. And then Lori rested, not officially, not in front of the jury, but she rested. Now, she'd put up a lot of talk about having a case in chief, and also it seemed like maybe she was going to take the stand. And she's still like, I might change my mind. But basically, she said, not officially, but she said outside the presence of the jury that she's resting. So it's like, while this case is supposed to be ongoing, it looks like it's going to be done. So on Monday, we're going to have closing arguments, and I think we'll have a verdict, and this will be done before Karen Reed starts. It's a miracle. It's an Easter miracle. So, so the other thing, so then on Thursday, on Thursday they did jury instructions. So so we covered those, and it looks like Lori's getting in her third-party self-defense and third-party self-defense instructions, which is really good for him to do. Honestly, that's the best case scenario for her. So on Monday, we will have the judge will read the jury instructions to them before closing arguments, which I prefer. I think that's how it should always be done. And then they will have closing arguments, and then this will go to the jury. And I expect a verdict on Monday and before Karen Reed starts. Easter miracle. So again, what we're doing here is over the weekend, we are righting a wrong, so to speak, in a way. We're gonna, since Summer Shiflet and Detective Moffatt were talked about a whole lot, enough for Judge Beresky to even bring it up in jury instructions, and they didn't testify in the Arizona trial. We are going to fill in those gaps by listening to their testimony in Idaho. And we also have some other things we're going to watch as well. So not Lori, right? But other witnesses that came up a whole lot in the trial. And we actually had been talking about how strange it was that we weren't getting more from them. So they surely are very damning. I agree. And welcome again, Northwest. Yeah, we were talking about Murdoch when that question came in. So I didn't even understand that it was related to Lori. So I know that Adam is estranged. I thought yeah. And actually, well, Adam did say he's been mending the relationship with the family. So he's estranged from Lori, but I think because that situation is changing, the family dynamic is changing, is what he said. So, okay. So welcome anyone else who's just now getting here. So we're going to start with reviewing Summer Shiflet's testimony from Idaho, because I didn't even remember she had testified. So, and it's not that long. And the thing is that we didn't know until this Arizona trial that she was harboring Lori when Lori disappeared. That was news. That Lori was staying at Summer's. We did not have that information. So Summer, like, a lot came out in this, and also there was text communication. Like, a lot came out in this Arizona trial that was like, oh, Summer knew way more than maybe we could have maybe intuited that she knew, but we hadn't heard it for sure on the record, right? So, like, that was the question. It's like, wait, Summer has a lot more knowledge. Like, you know what I mean? So anyway, that is amazing, Gwennon. Welcome, Happy Annie. So, do I go to my parents for Easter dinner? We aren't religious, so we never did like an Easter dinner situation. We used to, when my brother and I were kids, we did like the Easter egg hunt or whatever. But we never did like an Easter dinner. Is that a thing that people do, like the Thanksgiving dinner? But is there an Easter version? What do people eat? Confetti? Eggs? Anyway. Is this a quote from something? Don't flatter yourself. The enchiladas weren't good. I remember Adam saying that she never made those ever. He had no memory of her ever making them. Oh, it's like Thanksgiving all over again. Oh God, why? Why do people do that? Well, I mean, I don't know if that's. There's plenty of religious people that swear. I mean, and there's plenty who don't. I don't know. It just. I mean, I don't swear around my students, obviously. Pheasant, that's exotic. So anyway, my normal pattern of speaking includes, I don't even think of it as swearing, honestly. I'm just so used to it. And I feel like most people do. It's a more expanded, gives you a more expanded vocabulary. That's epic. Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that is cute. See, that I can get down with, forcing your dog to dress as a bunny. I don't have a bunny costume for Frodo, but he does have he has a tuxedo. He has what else does he have for costumes? Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. He's had a number of costumes. Don't have an Easter one for him. That I would totally do. Now, here's the thing. My brother and my niece and nephew will probably do like the egg stuff in my mom's house or whatever. And finding of the eggs, but the pollen is so bad right now. I don't think I'm going to be doing that. Who's going places? Who's losing people? What is happening? What is happening? Is everybody okay? We love Gabby. So anyway, so in other words, a veggie feast. That's awesome, Candace. So, oh, that's awful, Iowa, the turtle. Okay, it's all good. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I probably will be streaming tomorrow, basically. I mean, again, it's just, I just don't know what or when. And we might even do, if I can get it done, we might even do the members only live tomorrow night, which would be kind of a fun way to celebrate going into Monday, which will be Lori's, again, expected to final day of trial. So, and for anyone who missed it, the next members only will be trivia, and the categories will include, let's see here, famous quotes, firsts in history, movie trivia, musical theater trivia, trial trivia, and 90s music. So, okay, but let's get into this. So, Summer Shiflet. For anyone who's not up on, it's fine. This is from Lori's Idaho trial. So, this is from 2023. Summer Shiflet is Lori's sister. And there was no cameras allowed in the courtroom, right? So that's why, but the audio is really good, which is why we're watching it.
Okay, we're back on the record on CR 22-21-1624, State of Idaho versus Lori Noreen Vallow. Mr. Thomas is conducting cross-examination of the witness, Mr. Ballance. You can continue with your cross if you'd like.
Oh, this starts out with cross-exam of Nick Ballance. Well, let's listen to this first anyway.
Time, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Interesting.
Mr. Ballance, or Special Agent.
Sorry, this is the dude in Idaho. Well, for Idaho v. Koberger also, right? You guys, I'm sure, are aware who is the cast. Let's listen to this. It can't be long because this entire thing, I mean, is only 55 minutes. So.
Ballance, we were just about to talk a little bit about drive testing.
Interesting.
Can you tell me what type of equipment is involved in that?
Yeah, so what we're using is what's called a GAR, which is a Gladiator Autonomous Receiver. And basically what that equipment does is it collects the different RF frequencies that are being broadcast by the different cellular providers in a specific area. So in order to take measurements, you would need to drive or move that gear around. Typically, we'll do it with a car. And as we drive, it's constantly taking measurements of the different radio frequency that it's detecting with those sensors that it's utilizing. Once we get all of those particular measurements, that's whenever we would take it back into a software mapping program and would look at, and we can basically filter out specific towers and sectors and what that true coverage would look like for each individual one that it detected.
And you said you did this particular test in June of 2020?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And how long does that test take?
So it depends on the area that we're specifically driving. So if we're just doing one tower and sector, you could feasibly do that in a day. Again, it depends on if you're looking at just a tower and sector that's in downtown Boise, the coverage area probably is not going to go out nearly as far as in a rural area. So we're driving basically to the next tower and a little bit beyond to see how far that coverage goes. When you're talking about a rural area or you're talking about doing an entire city like Rexburg, it took us driving better part of a week to complete it.
And that was Rexburg, Sugar City, St. Anthony, the whole area that's in your CAST report?
Correct.
That only took you a week to do?
Correct.
All right. And this Gladiator autonomous receiver, is this a piece of equipment that is a government issue, or is this something that is in the industry?
So it's in the industry. The company that produces is Gladiator.
Okay.
Re-upping your membership to trivia?
I believe you indicated on direct examination that you cannot, there's no way you could ever be able to tell where a phone was located 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Correct. What I mean by that is that it depends on, we have to have a record in from one of the carriers for a specific date and time. So if we don't have a record for a specific date and time, then we're not able to estimate a location at that particular date and time.
Now, I just want to say something. He's specifying what he's saying is specific to what they do, which is FBI CAST, right? So that's using the cell data. So that's why he said we can't do that because it says the carrier provided information. But remember, the real good, as they say, comes from the cell phone. And that's from the Celebrite, and that's where you get your actual the phone's location data. As we know, if you're Paul Murdoch, you can pinpoint where he was 24/7, 7 days a week, 365, pretty much by the second. So,
and then on top of that as well, it's dependent on the records. So if we're looking at a tower and sector that provides coverage to a large area, then the area we estimate that phone is going to be much larger than certain types of records that we receive, like from the Google location, that have a much smaller margin of error.
And in this particular case, the sectors are vast, right? I mean, they're huge.
There's several towers in this case that have coverage areas that are large, yes.
Okay. And so when you're saying that a particular phone is within a particular sector, I mean, that could be 40, 50 square miles, right?
It depends on the tower and sector, but it could be a large area.
Okay, let's talk about in this case. How large are these areas?
So without having measurements on the map to determine the square area, I mean, I think what you're getting at is that there's a large area. So if you look at particularly that tower that is in St. Anthony, it has coverage that goes down almost into Rexburg. So depending, again, without having, a ruler and being able to map out that exact area, I'll definitely say it's a large area.
Okay, so if I was to tell you between St. Anthony and Rexburg, it's about 12 to 15 miles in one direction, just going down the highway.
Okay.
And would that make sense to say, well, it's probably 12 miles one direction, and then there's also another slice of the pie, which covers maybe another 12, 15, 20 miles square?
I mean, again, without looking at it on a map, I don't want to abstractly say what the square mileage would be.
Okay. And so when you're, when the prosecutor was examining you, and we had all these charts and very great charts if you know what you're doing and if you know what you're looking at. But for the layperson like me or something, it's a little bit difficult. And so what I want to know is there any way to say that based on those charts, based on your readings of those charts, and based on your readings of those of all that data, that there's any way you can pinpoint to say that anybody was on the Chad Daybell area or in the Chad Daybell complex or homestead without looking at the GPS?
So if we're excluding completely the Google location history and we're only looking at the phones, the best way you would be able to tell whether or not a device was near the Chad Daybell residence is whenever you have two different towers and sectors being utilized in close proximity in time, and they have overlapping coverage. It still would not, in my opinion, be able to tell you that it was at the Chad Daybell residence. You would only be able to say that it's consistent with it being at the Chad Daybell residence, but it also could be in any of those overlapping areas that appear on the map.
So would that be considered triangulation, or when you're using cell towers to triangulate to try to find where a person is or where a person's phone would be?
Somewhat. Usually triangulation is based off of the measurement from particular towers. And then whenever you have multiple, the more that you have, the more you can overlap those measurements away from a particular tower. When we're talking about the drive test, what we're looking at is the true coverage area of a tower and sector compared with the true coverage area of a second tower and sector. And what that gives us is that overlap, which can be of as you can see from some of the maps, that shape is not exactly circular or representative of, defining lines. It can look more like a cloud than anything else.
Okay, but based on the evidence that you've seen, based on the data that you've crunched, you couldn't place anybody at the Daybell residence based on the cell data alone.
Okay,
There was no triangulation. You didn't use two towers in any of the charts that I saw. Is that right?
So I did use multiple towers in some of them.
Bum, 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 bum. Sorry. Two towers is like, that's so funny. It's like overlap with Lord of the Rings, obviously. And also, Idaho v. Koberger.
And what I would say is that I wouldn't be able to definitively say that that phone was only at the Daybell residence.
Okay.
Okay. So here's what I will say. This is not nearly as exciting since we can't see the data they're looking at. So let's jump ahead to where Summer takes the stand.
What's called a pattern of life would be better. Protections, you can opt out of your location.
Exclusionary rule would not
Oh,
apply.
wait, hang on.
Before we call this next witness, please.
Yes.
Possible to turn the GPS geolocation data off on your
This
phone?
I want to hear. Real quick.
Defense counsel asked you about
Oh, redirect.
GPS location data for Lori Daybell and Chad. Lori Vallow or Lori Daybell and Chad Daybell, correct?
Yes, correct.
Is it possible to turn the GPS geolocation data off on your phone?
Yes.
It is. So as I mentioned before, especially with Google, that location services is based off of whether a user wants to opt in or out. And so as part of their privacy protections, you can opt out of your location being maintained by Google.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right. So now they're going to call Summer. Cool.
No, thank you.
Let's do that. I'll ask you out. You can go ahead and be excused the bail.
I know, right?
Assist you out of
Apparently.
court. And the
I mean,
state
maybe Ballance is just a huge Lord of the Rings fan, which, I mean, I can't blame him for that. However, it is interesting.
could call it. Yeah. The state would call Summer Shiflet.
Here we go. Summertime. All right. Summertime. I didn't even do that on purpose. I was like, summertime. And then I was like, oh, that's funny. And the glory is easy. Easy in the, you guys know what way I mean. Anyway, okay. Yeah, I mean, it is Idaho, so,
Or harm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So
I mean, we didn't listen to the whole thing, right? So. Who doesn't love that song, right? Great song.
All right, before we get started then, I'll note that the court has previously designated this particular witness as a representative under Idaho's victims laws, so the exclusionary rule would not apply
Interesting.
as to this witness, whether or not
Okay.
she's watched any trial testimony. So I'll
All right,
just,
this is actually important. So a couple things to note. This came up on a recent live stream, right? So one thing that Judge Boyce does is with every witness, with only these exceptions, which we'll talk about here, he asks them, with each witness, he asks them, like, did you watch anything? Have you seen anything? Right? Before they take the stand. And then after they take the stand, he asks, okay, can they be released from their subpoena? Because this came up in another thing recently. And I was like, there's some judges who just make it their practice. They always ask. And we actually heard that as I was fast forwarding through the end of Nick Balance's testimony. Judge Boyce asked. But here, this is really interesting because I thought, oh, he's going to ask what he always asks, but he does, but in a different way, kind of, because she's exempt. So she's been present, or she could be if she wanted to be. I don't know if she actually was. But, we just finished reading just the other night the recent order for Idaho v. Koberger, and we've been talking about this with the victim's family and the defendant's family. So let's hear what he says here.
all right, before we get started then, I'll note that the court has previously designated this particular witness as a representative under Idaho's victims laws, so the exclusionary rule would not apply as to this witness, whether or not she's watched any trial testimony. So I'll just advise you then, Ms. Shiflet, when you're being questioned, please use verbal responses so we get your answers on the record. Please avoid talking at the same time as anyone asking you a question. Wait for their question to be complete. That way we'll also keep the record clear, and with those ground rules in mind, then Mr. Brownlee, you can go ahead and inquire on your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Who made that decision?
Good morning, Ms. Shiflet.
Good morning.
Can I please have you state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Okay.
Summer Shiflet, Shiflet.
Ms. Shiflet, how do you know the defendant in this case,
She's my sister.
Lori Vallow Daybell? You're fine.
She's my sister.
And is she your older sister?
Yes.
And this is obvious without asking, Ms. Shiflet, but can I have you clarify for the record how that makes you related to J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan?
Tylee and JJ were my niece and nephew.
And did you?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Shiflet. If you don't mind, if you can kind of lean forward right to the microphone and talk into it, we'll make sure to pick
We
up
need to hear
the
you,
recording.
ma'am.
Thank you.
And did you play an active role in your niece and nephew's life?
Yes.
When were you first made aware that your niece and nephew were missing?
I think through the media, but probably December of 2019.
And at that time, December of 2019, were you in contact with your sister?
No,
Were you aware of where she was located at that time?
no.
Ms. Shiflet, have you had a close relationship with your sister?
Yes.
At some point, did you talk to your sister and ask her about JJ and Tylee's well-being?
Yes. I think our first contact was in February of 2019 after she had been arrested.
And what did she tell you about JJ and Tylee?
I don't remember the exact wording, but she basically told me that she was aware of where they were and that they were safe.
Ms. Shiflet, fair to say that you trusted what she told you?
Yes.
You believed your sister when she stated to you that JJ and Tylee were safe?
Yes.
I'm going to draw your attention to early June of 2020 when JJ and Tylee's bodies were found. You testified that you trusted your sister. After the discovery of JJ and Tylee, did that change?
Yes.
Why?
I felt lied to, and my trust in my sister was broken.
Ms. Shiflet, a recording of a video visit between yourself and Ms. Vallow Daybell has previously been admitted in this case. Do you recall the date of that specific video call?
I believe it was on June 24th. I had received a request for me to call her.
And just for clarification of the record, do you recall the year?
2020.
Your Honor, can I be handed what has previously been admitted as State's Exhibit 34A?
Yes.
And we're going to listen to this entire thing too, the jail call.
And Your Honor, having been previously admitted, I now ask to publish what has been previously admitted and marked as State's Exhibit 34A to the jury.
All right. Give me just a moment to confer with the clerks, please. All right. Permission to publish is granted, Mr. Ramel.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. So this is the jail phone call between Summer and Lori.
I don't know what to say. I'm willing to listen if you want to talk to me. I just don't know what to say. Well, I know the victim. Tylee's very inoffensive and JJ's very
you're able to hear Summer more than Lori. Now, again, I do have the calls themselves. I bet the audio's probably cleaned up. This is being played in the courtroom, so. Oh.
Did you know they were there? Can't talk about it.
Lori said I can't talk about it.
I don't know what to say, Lori. You know how much I love you and Alex. It's just sick of my stomach. I just think anything like you never let anything happen like this and just let me throw it away like garbage. And you can't continue and let this. It's too painful. Yes, I do. Thanks. Is there another explanation? I'm willing to hear it. I don't want to think it. Absolutely, but I can't talk about it. You went up to Hawaii or dancing on the beach while your kids are in the ground? You had no knowledge when you went there. I just can't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. I want to believe the best in you. I really do. I love you with all my heart. It's healthy. But they're just little kids. They don't understand. I don't understand. That's what I thought.
So I think Lori's saying, you know me, Summer. And she says, that's what I thought.
Lori, if you let that happen to them and didn't tell us and took the beat in the ground like a piece of trash, then I don't know you because you would have never done anything like that. That's correct. And if you knew and didn't tell us, that's not okay. We loved them. We would have taken them. We would have taken care of them. You could have gone out and done anything you wanted. That's what you think? I don't know what to think. No, no, you haven't told us anything. We believe you and stop for you. I can't. I would love to. You cut me and Mom off for 4 months and told everyone not to trust us because we tell Adam. And now we find this out and you expect me to just keep going on faith when there's been zero explanation.
Okay, hold on. So whatever, I forgot this was on 1.25. Oops, sleep timer. That's not what I meant to say. Hit, click. Whatever Lori said, it set Summer off, rightfully fucking so. But let's just back this up and see if we can catch more of this because Lori's really hard to hear. I bet she's being quiet on purpose because she knows it's going to be recorded.
We would have taken them. We would have taken care of them. You could have gone off and done anything you wanted.
Okay. We would have taken them. You could have gone off and done anything you wanted. We would have taken them. So this to me is interesting. And here's why. Because what this looks like is Summer's interpretation of why this happened was so that Lori could literally just be with Chad and not have to be a mom, which is really interesting, right? That was a huge part of the Idaho trial, but not so much in Arizona as far as the motive, right? And I think it's what a lot of us have sort of thought, right? It was just because she wanted to just go off and be with Chad and not have to worry about the kids. And the kids were in the way of her being able to do whatever she wanted. This shows that that's what Summer thinks was going on. Like, isn't that interesting? She's not like, look, we would have given you money. She's not like, look, we would have, whatever. She's like, we would have taken the kids so you could go and do whatever you want. Interesting.
And if you knew and didn't tell us, that's not okay. We loved them. We would have taken them. We would have taken care of them. You could have gone off and done anything you wanted. That's what you think? I don't know what to think. No, you haven't told us anything. We believe you and stop for you. I cannot. I would love to. You cut me and Mom off for 4 months and told everyone not to trust us because we tell Adam. And now we find this out and you expect me to just keep going on faith when there's been zero explanation.
Interesting. So she's brought up Adam. Interesting. Let me hear that again. It's hard to tell what they're saying. We believed you and stuck up for you. So I think Summer is realizing that they mistakenly, cast Adam out when he was right. That's what this is.
I cannot. I would love to. You cut me and Mom off for 4 months and told everyone not to trust us because we tell Adam. And now
Told him not to trust. Told someone. Hold on.
4 months and told everyone not to trust us because we tell Adam.
Told everyone not to trust us because we tell Adam.
And now we find this out and you expect me to just keep going on faith when there's been zero explanation and you expect me to just keep believing without ever having a question? Say that. That is what you're saying. Either explain it or don't expect me to not be upset and tell you when the kids are on Jeff's property.
Yeah.
I'm not okay. I love them with all my heart. I would have taken Tylee and Georgie in a heartbeat, and everybody else would have too. You know that. You have no. If there was any danger, you're right. Nobody does because you can't nothing. Because everybody sees what's on TV. That's it.
Lori?
That has nothing to do with TV. This is your and my conversations. Before you left and cut me off. And now you expect me to be there for you when you were going to abandon me. And if you were in jail, you wouldn't even be talking to me. And we wouldn't even know they were dead still.
Wow. To that point. If you weren't in a jail, you wouldn't even be talking to me and no one would even know they were dead still.
This is your day. Yes! I deserve more than that. I've been there for you like a rock. And I went on TV and defended you. I've done everything to defend you. And I still would right now if you would tell me the truth.
Interesting. And I still would right now if you would tell me the truth. For anyone who's just not going to hear, this is from when Summer Shiflet was on the stand in Idaho for Lori's trial, and they're playing Lori's and Summers's jail call.
I would love to. I would love to. You didn't want you in October, November, December, January, or February when you weren't in jail. Why didn't you tell us then? Why you didn't call me when Alex died, which now I'm glad he's gone, if he was a part of this, but you didn't call to tell me Alex died or that your kids are gone, nothing.
So that's interesting. So Lori didn't call to say Alex was dead. You guys, for all of us, we've talked a lot about this with Alex. That is interesting, isn't it, though? Huh.
Glad he's gone if he was a part of this, but you didn't call to tell me Alex died or that your kids are gone, nothing.
Wow.
You don't think that's going to cause pain throughout our entire family?
That's interesting about Alex.
Yes, you really did. You don't think I did? No, I don't. I think you were dancing on the beach having a great time.
Wow.
Getting married. And you took pictures to prove your kids don't deserve a burial, but you need to get wedding pictures?
Yeah.
You don't think that's upsetting?
Oh.
Nobody knows. Sorry.
Oh.
And nobody knows except for you and the Lord. Yeah, ask him. I have. And guess what? I don't have one scripture that says it's okay for children to be thrown away like garbage in the ground. And that's okay. There is nothing in the scriptures that is godly about hurting a child. Nothing.
how can you go on without them without any upset?
You expect us to understand. Nobody in the world knows what I've been through.
Oh, here she goes. Nobody in the world knows what I've been through.
And I don't expect you to. All you see is what's on TV, what everybody says, and all that. No, that's not all the people around. Okay, so now I know deceased. Everyone in the world is deceived except for you. Say nobody's seen me on the floor crying. Nobody knows what I've been through. My children, that I love more than anything. You were dancing on a beach with a smile on your face, taking wedding photos.
I have a question for y'all. I have a question for y'all. Do y'all think that when Lori's trials are all said and done and she's done her appeals, do you think she'll tell the truth? I don't. I don't think she'll ever tell the truth. I think either she's not going to have answers or the answers she's going to have are the bullshit answers like what she's been giving. You know, for example, like what she told Colby and like what she said at sentencing. That's what I think. We're glad Meg brought her earbuds. Awesome. So we'll still talk to you, Meg. Love it. Yeah, I agree. So I appreciate that there's certain things she's not saying for legal reasons, but I don't think it would change anything in terms of her honesty to Summer. I don't expect that to ever change. So yeah.
Trying to go on with life. You don't think I'm trying to find some kind of happiness. You think I want to be alone?
Right.
Do you think that your mother and your sister and your son don't deserve to know that the children are gone? Why wouldn't you call and tell us that? Why were we cut off? You saying you want to go on and be happy? You just gotta be happy without your family and your life until you're stuck in jail and I'm the only one stupid enough to be your friend when I've been your best supporter, Lori. I've loved you my whole life. I still do. I can't bear to think of anything bad about you. It hurts me. I don't want to see you in jail. I don't want you to be there. I don't want people to misunderstand. If you would tell me the truth, I would stand up for you for the rest of the time. You know that I would. I love you so much. But there is nothing okay about this. Nothing. If you think it's okay, well, you have to say about this. It's okay. This is okay. Nothing about this is okay, Summer.
Oh.
Lori, we've all read the scriptures. I know you told me about a lot of your spiritual experiences. You know I've tried to support you in all of them.
Wow, right?
But I am telling you,
I agree.
because I love you with all my heart, please consider that Chad has lied and been deceived, and that you have been deceived, and that this is not what you think it is. There is nothing okay about killing children. Nothing. And even if you didn't kill them, and Dad didn't kill them, and Alex didn't kill them, you threw them away like garbage in the ground. You tried to phone the bird. Think I did that to you?
Oh my God. Lori.
And threw her in a pet suit. You know that such a great happy you let them do that. I don't understand. It's so painful, I can't even tell you. I don't know what else to say, but
Wow.
please consider that you have been deceived. And that is not Christ-like. There's nothing good in that. There's nothing good in that. That's not a test for you.
You know, I think though the only explanation for burying them in Chad's yard, we learned at some point, I don't remember exactly when, but maybe it was during Lori's trial. I think maybe during Lori's trial, that the pictures from Chad's kitchen, like not the pictures, sorry, the window from like Chad's kitchen overlooks the pet cemetery. And the only explanation would be to keep an eye on it. You know, because it's like if you take them somewhere else, then you might have to regularly go check up and see if anyone's found them, right? I think that would be the only thing that makes sense. Thinking, I guess first there's an assumption that no one's going to come looking there, which is dumb. obviously. But I honestly think that if you were to weigh out, okay, if you were to weigh out like the pros and cons here, right? And it's like the odds of them being found versus wanting to have control. Clearly, the control was more of a motivator for Chad, right? That's what it is. Because, I mean, honestly, they're her kids. Someone's going to realize they're missing at some point, right? And the first thing they're going to look at is the parents, and they're going to look and they're going to notice that they're going to learn she's having an affair. I mean, it's like a no-brainer that they would show up at Chad's at some point, right? So he prioritized. The only thing I can figure is the control.
They were innocent. And they were loved. And they didn't deserve to love their whole life. They took care of them their whole life. Me. So why would you let them hate Gary that way? I didn't. Well, then come up with an explanation publicly. Go ahead.
Your Honor, that's all I have for this witness. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ramel.
How long did they search Yellowstone? I feel like if anyone would know that off the top of their heads, it would be Northwest. I feel though like they thought they were going to have to, and they didn't because they found them at Chad's, but I don't remember for sure. Yeah. So now we're on to cross.
All right. Exhibit 34A
Okay.
has been retrieved.
I trust Northwest. So my memory is correct, right? I remember thinking that would have been the next step. So the full Yellowstone search hadn't begun. Okay. Okay, cool. That's what I thought.
And to the court clerk, is there cross-examination, Mr. Archibald?
I'm sorry you had to relive that.
Thank you.
So just some foundation to give some background here. You're Lori's younger sister, you said?
Yes.
And you're one of how many children?
I'm the youngest of 5.
And who's the oldest child?
Stacy, my oldest sister.
And is she alive or is she deceased?
She's deceased.
And did she have any children before she died?
Yes.
And who would that be?
My niece, Melanie.
Okay. Is that who we've heard the name Melanie Bedreau or Melanie Pulowski? Is that Stacy's child?
Yes.
Okay. And then who's next after Stacy?
Alex.
And then Alex Cox is who we've heard that name during this trial as well. How much older is he than you?
I think 8 years.
Okay. And then who's next after Alex?
Adam.
And Adam Cox, where does he live now?
St. George, Utah.
Okay. And then, and he was a friend of Charles Vallow?
Yes.
Okay. And then who's next after Adam?
Well, my parents had a child that died. Her name was Laura Lee. We called her Lolly. But she died before I was born.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is interesting. I forgot this came up here. So this is interesting because we've talked about this. Remember, Lori misappropriated this name with the Lolly Time account using the nickname that they used to call Lorelei.
How old was she when she died?
6 weeks.
Okay. And then after her, who was next?
Lori.
And so Lori is how much older than you?
2 years.
And so you and Lori grew up together?
Yes.
And you grew up together where?
In Rialto, California.
And how old were you when you moved away from California?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
How old were you, or how long did you live in California?
I think until I was about 18, 17 or 18.
Okay. So you and Lori would have been adults by the time that you moved away from California.
Yes.
So would you describe, how would you describe your relationship with Lori growing up?
I feel like we had a close relationship. We had a lot of similar interests and friends in common, and we did a lot of activities together.
Okay. Go to schools together?
Yes.
Go to church together?
Yes.
Yeah.
How would you?
So I had remembered thinking there were suspicious circumstances around Lorelei's death. And because of that, I think I might have thought Lori was involved, but maybe it was that Alex could have been involved. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I just remember there was learning from, I think it might have been Megan, that there were something suspicious about that. But let me know if anyone in the chat remembers what it was surrounding Lolly's death that was weird. Stacy's was definitely even more so, I think, though. Heart defect. Okay. It is still odd to me, and it will always stay odd that Lori misappropriated that name. That will stay odd to me, when she could have just made up more names using her own name. But anyway, Stacy was definitely sus. Yeah.
You describe your family life.
I think we had a good family. I mean, we had problems, but we also had a lot of fun.
Yeah. And do you remember when Lori, her first marriage?
Yes.
Do you remember how old she was?
It was right out of high school. So I think 18.
So she was 18 and you were 16 when that happened?
Yeah.
And did that marriage last long?
No.
Do you remember her second marriage?
Yes.
And who was that to?
William LaJoya.
And is that the father of Colby, who we met here last week?
Yes.
Okay. And did that marriage last long?
Longer than the first, but not that long.
Okay. And then did Lori get married again?
Yes.
And who was her third husband?
Joseph Ryan.
And is Joseph Ryan the father of Tylee Ryan?
Yes.
And during this time of these relationships that Lori was having, did you stay close with Lori?
Off and on.
When did you get married?
In 2000.
And so did you have your own life that you were trying to live as well?
Yes.
And did you try to maintain good contact with Lori?
Yes, but we lived in 2 different states, so it was more challenging.
Okay. And you have children of your own?
Yes.
And how many children do you have?
3.
Okay. And do you recall when Lori separated from Joe Ryan?
Yes.
And did Lori protect Colby and Tylee from Joe Ryan?
Yes.
All right. And so when you talk on this phone call with your sister Lori, that you would have never done anything to harm your children. Is that the way you felt?
Yes.
Okay. And that's because of seeing her raise Colby and Tylee and JJ.
Yes.
Did you also get to know Charles Vallow?
Yes.
And if you can briefly tell us about the relationship between Charles
talking, by the
and
way,
Lori.
So this is Mr. Archibald. He's a very distinctive voice. He was Lori's court-appointed counsel, public defender.
I think they had a great relationship in the beginning, and they seemed very compatible, and they seemed very happy.
And they adopted JJ.
Yes.
And
I will add also, this is important because it's testimony about Charles, but I will add also that Mr. Archibald is one of the death penalty certified public defenders in Idaho. So he's kept pretty busy.
They seemed very compatible, and they seemed very happy.
And they adopted JJ.
Yes.
And were you involved in your sister's life when that happened?
Yes.
Were you involved in your sister's life when Lori and Charles separated?
Yes.
Were you aware that Charles had filed for divorce?
I'm not sure if I knew that until it came out in the media, because I don't think she was ever served.
Okay. And then they, as far as you knew, they had reconciled.
Yes.
So were you a part of Lori's life when Charles and JJ moved to Texas?
Yes. Not as close, but yes.
Okay. Were you a part of Lori's life when the whole family had moved to Hawaii?
Yes.
Now, was Hawaii a destination that your family had gone to as well when you were a child?
I had been there one time as a child, and then I didn't go back again until I was a married adult.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did go back one time before I got married. So I had 2 trips before I got married.
Okay. And so was that a place that your father and mother had taken you and the family?
Yes.
Right. How
Just wanted to clarify
did
something.
you?
So Iowa was asking about Chad's case with John Pryor. So because Chad retained his own counsel, John Pryor was not court appointed. You only have to be death penalty certified if you are court appointed. If somebody chooses, so Chad waived the right there. He waived, and they did thorough colloquies on this, that he still wanted John Pryor to represent him, even though John Pryor is not death penalty certified. So so you have that option. And if it's your own private counsel, you can choose to have someone who's not death penalty certified.
See Tylee grow up?
Yes.
How would you describe Tylee?
I would describe her as beautiful and witty and very talented in a lot of different ways.
Did she have health issues in her life?
Yes.
Do you remember what those were?
She had pancreatitis several times.
And do you know what that is?
It's the swelling of your pancreas.
Was that something that required hospitalization?
Yes.
Okay. And were you able to see Tylee and Lori together?
Yes.
And can you describe that?
Obviously, he's trying to humanize Lori to the jury.
I think Lori was a loving mother, and Tylee adored her mother. They fought sometimes. Tylee had a little sassy streak in her, but I always felt like Lori was very patient with her.
Were you ever concerned about the safety of Tylee around Lori?
No.
Would you ever imagine your sister wanting to kill her kids?
No.
Would you ever imagine your sister being involved in conspiring to kill her kids?
No.
Now, the way you were you raised in a way to believe in Jesus?
Yes.
And the Jesus that you were taught about, was that a Jesus who was kind and loving?
Yes.
And is that how you were taught?
Yes.
And is that how Lori was taught?
Yes.
And is that how Lori taught her children?
Yes.
So, did you ever hear your sister talk about multiple lives?
She and Alex had both mentioned that to me, I think in late 2018.
Okay.
It's the first time.
Was that something new?
Yes.
Was that something that you had been taught as children?
No.
Did you ask Lori where this new belief was coming from?
I don't know if I asked her that directly.
Did she talk about multiple creations?
Yes.
Being reincarnated as different people over the eons of time. Is that what she was telling you?
Not with the word reincarnated, but yes.
Okay. So they weren't using the word reincarnated, but multiple probations, multiple creations.
Correct.
And is that something new that you had heard?
It was new to me.
Had you ever heard Lori talk about being someone in another life prior to late 2018?
No.
At this time in late 2018 or early 2019, did she tell you that she had been someone else in another life?
Prior to 2018?
Prior to 2018.
No.
In late 2018 or 2019, did she tell you that?
Yes.
Did she tell you about her previous lives?
Yes.
Did any of that make sense to you?
Not really.
Did you believe it?
I tried to. I wanted to believe her, but it didn't make sense.
Did she tell you in late 2018, 2019 about zombies?
And Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to object to hearsay. Ms. Vallow Daybell is not a party opponent. As to the defense, the exception does not apply.
Let me think about that for just a minute. Mr. Rammel, can you further explain why you think the exception would not apply here and why this would be hearsay?
Judge, I think the exception, he's asking specifically for statements of his client. She is a party opponent of the state. The party opponent from the state's perspective wouldn't apply to Ms. Vallow, who is the client of Mr. Archibald.
This is interesting. Hold on. Let me
All right,
back
what's
this up.
your response
Let me
to
back
that,
this up
Mr.
so we can talk about this objection here with hearsay. Hold on.
To hearsay.
I tried to. I wanted to believe her, but it didn't make sense.
Did she tell you in late 2018, 2019 about zombies?
And Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to object to hearsay.
Okay.
Ms. Vallow Daybell is not a party opponent. As to the defense, the exception does not apply.
Right. So Lori's own statements are hearsay if they're elicited from her own defense counsel.
Let me think about that for just a minute. Mr. Rammel, can you further explain why you think the exception would not apply here and why this would be hearsay?
Judge, I think the exception, he's asking specifically for statements of his client.
Right.
She is a party opponent of the state. The party opponent from the state's perspective wouldn't apply to Ms. Vallow, who is the client of Mr. Archibald.
All right, what's your response to that, Mr. Archibald?
Your Honor, this is just some foundation. I think that
So I think he's trying to say it's not hearsay because it's not going to the truth of the matter asserted. It's just
the
foundation.
jury's already heard bits and pieces of this. This is just to confirm that information.
It's been admitted in the state's case in chief, and I do find that it's relevant and would not be hearsay. So I'll overrule the objection and allow the witness to answer that last question, which was, and I'll just cite, did she tell you in late 2018, 2019 about zombies was the question. So you can answer.
I don't recall her ever telling me about zombies, that word. I don't remember her ever using that terminology.
Okay. Did she talk to you about her ability to cast out evil spirits?
I believe so.
Did she tell you about light and dark scales?
Yes.
And is that something that you'd heard before that time period?
Never.
Did she tell you that she was a goddess?
I don't recall if she used that terminology.
Did she tell you that she was a leader of the 144,000?
No.
Did she tell you that there was a new church called the Church of the Firstborn?
I don't recall her ever telling me that specifically.
Yeah. Were you concerned about your sister with her new beliefs?
I don't know that I was concerned about safety of anybody. I just was concerned. I mean, of course I care about my sister, but I didn't really know what to think about it. So
Okay.
I don't know if concerned is the right word.
Okay, that's fair enough. How was your relationship with Alex?
I was close with Alex.
Now, can you tell the jury what he was like?
Well, he was my big brother, and sometimes he was hilarious and fun, and sometimes he was kind of crude or obnoxious in a way. But most of the time we got along really well, and he was at my house most weekends playing games with my kids.
And did he have children of his own?
No.
Did he suffer a brain injury as a teenager?
Yes.
And what was that, from a car accident?
Yes.
Oh, right. I remember.
And did that brain injury in that car accident, did that affect him?
I believe it did.
Was he different after that car accident than he was before?
He seemed almost stuck in making like teenage decisions. He got in his car accident at 16, and he kind of made decisions like a 16-year-old most of his life.
So he was, that's what you observed, is that he was stuck as a teenager.
In his decision making, yes.
Okay.
For anyone who missed it, we watched on another live stream, or not, well, we listened to one of Alex's ex-wives calling up, forget who they were talking to, Detective Duncan. No, Detective, what's his face, who testified earlier on in the Arizona trial. I'm forgetting his last name now, but she detailed all that was a really interesting call where she talks about Alex's past and how he had issues with essaying like minors and like going to foreign countries for women, and also how that he had said that the plan was for them to kill, or for him to kill Joe Ryan, and he was going to tase him first and then kill him, but then the tasing didn't work, and I mean there's a lot. And then also she talks about the dysfunctional relationship between Alex and Lori, where they were always like doing weird, inappropriate behaviors, like simulating sex and all this other weird stuff. Definitely worth listening to.
Do you stay in touch with Colby Ryan?
Yes.
And Colby had previously stated, my mom spent her whole life protecting us kids. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Colby also stated after she met Chad Daybell, she changed. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
I think we might want to also listen to Colby's testimony.
Thank you for your testimony.
Redirect.
All right, thank you, Mr. Archibald. So to clarify there, counsel had requested of the court prior that the defense was going to call Ms. Shiflet as their own witness, so the court permitted the defense to go beyond cross and have a direct examination essentially there. So with that then, Mr. Rammel, if you'd like to conduct cross and or redirect, you can do so.
Thank you, Judge. Just very quickly. Ms. Shiflet, just a couple questions for you. I'm going to draw your attention back to the time period in which you were made aware that JJ and Tylee were missing. You testified that your sister told you that she knew where Tylee was.
I don't remember if she used that wording, but yes, that was what was relayed to me.
Okay, and conveyed to you that she knew where JJ was.
Yes.
She told you that they were safe.
Yes.
Ms. Shiflet, she lied to you about them being safe.
I believe so. Yes.
Judge, that's
Yeah, and that's true. Lori did tell everybody the whole time the kids were missing. She kept saying she knew where they were. So that is interesting as far as her knowledge of them being in Chad's backyard,
all I
right?
have.
Okay. So next up, we have Detective Moffatt, who again was MIA. Expected to hear from him in this Arizona trial, but he testified weirdly in Idaho. So
Who will be examining the witness?
I will be, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Blake, who will your next witness be?
Detective Nathan Moffatt.
All right, thank you. All right, Detective Moffatt, before we get started, I just wanted to inquire, have you in any way viewed any of the trial testimony while this case has been proceeding?
No, sir.
All right, not through any internet viewing, reading anywhere, watching any videos of the trial?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you for your response. I'll just let you know while you're on the stand, of course, we're making a record of the proceedings with the court reporter, so please answer all questions verbally. Also try to avoid speaking at the same time as anyone's asking you a question so the record stays clear. With those rules in mind then, Ms. Blake, if you'd like to inquire on direct, you may.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Sergeant Nathan Moffatt, M-O-F as in Frank, F as in Frank, A, T as in Tom.
Where are you currently employed?
The Chandler Police Department in Arizona.
How long have you been employed with them?
I've been with Chandler Police Department for about 21 years.
And your current title is Sergeant?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you held other positions within the department?
I have.
And what are some of those positions?
So I spent, obviously, started as an officer with a previous agency, but when I
random girl, welcome. Long time no see. I know you were in the Discord. Happy to see you. Getting baking for maybe some Easter stuff there.
went to Chandler, I spent about 5 years on patrol. And then I went to criminal investigations as a detective where I was there for about 14 and a half years.
Because are you saying for what? So yeah, this again was in the ex-wife's phone call. Apparently he had like essayed or raped a 15-year-old girl and then he fled because of that.
Prior to getting
Alex, I mean.
Do you have any specialized training in order to be a law enforcement officer?
Yes. In 1999, I attended the Arizona Law Enforcement Academy and graduated and became a sworn police officer.
And since then, have you attended additional training as a detective?
I have.
Now, I want to just give you all a couple options. So it's up next, so I can get it queued up. For Melanie Gibb, we've got options. We've got Melanie Gibb's first interview with Chandler PD. We watched her second interview already with Chandler PD, but we didn't watch her first one, so we have that. We have Melanie Gibb's testimony from Lori's trial. We also have an interview that Melanie Gibb gave Nate Eaton more recently, I think after the trials. No, wait, no, actually it's not. It's still from 4 years ago, but still, so it's before the trials, but there's an interview with Nate Eaton. So we've got, again, so there's three things. There's her first interview with law enforcement. There's her, or the one of the ones that are, recorded and released. We've got her testimony at Lori's trial, and we've got her interview with Nate Eaton. So let me know which you want to go with next, and we'll get it queued up.
Were you working on July 11th of 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall responding to the report of a shooting?
I did. Yeah, I do.
Your Honor, I'm going to just make sure the record is clear. I've objected to this witness previously under
Brandon
Rule 404B of the Idaho Rules of Evidence that anything that happened in Arizona is not relevant for this proceeding in Idaho.
All right, thank you, Mr. Archibald. The court notes the continuing objection to evidence relating to what occurred in Arizona. The court previously made a ruling on that issue in February, and for the reasons incorporated in that ruling, I'll overrule this objection, noting the jurors have been previously also instructed about the limiting nature of this evidence and will be instructed also before their deliberations with an explicit instruction describing how this evidence could be considered. So with that, the objection's overruled, and Ms. Blake, you can continue with your examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Again, just makes it even weirder that you didn't testify in Arizona.
Moffatt, are you aware of who reported that shooting?
Yeah, 911 call came in from the residence from Alex Cox.
Do you recall where you responded to?
Yeah, it was 5531. The street numbers or the streets escaping me.
Oh no, they're not talking about Brandon Drive. They're talking about Charles. Okay.
South Four Peaks Drive?
Yeah, South Four
Okay.
Peaks Drive. I'm sorry.
And that was in Chandler, Arizona?
Yes, ma'am.
When you arrived on scene, were other officers already present?
Yeah, patrol officers were already on scene when I arrived there.
And is that fairly common to have patrol officers there before detectives?
Yeah, very common.
When you arrived, did you take on a specific role with regards to the investigation?
Yeah, I was assigned role as the case agent.
And is that common practice?
Yes. Yeah, on every case like this, we have a case agent and a scene agent.
As the case agent, did you walk through the scene?
I did. I was briefly briefed by patrol, like for their initial investigation or their initial interviews, kind of what they had at the time. I briefly walked through the scene and then I responded back to the station.
When you were on scene, do you recall seeing Miss Vallow or Lori Vallow present?
I did not see Lori present.
Did you see Alex Cox present?
I did.
Did you speak with him on scene?
I did not.
Did you observe Charles Vallow?
I did.
And what did you observe about Charles Vallow?
When I briefly walked into the residence, Charles was deceased on the living room floor.
Did you end up conducting an interview with Alex Cox?
I did, yeah, back at our station.
So good question comes in from Gwen. And so how is it not prior bad act? So that's exactly why you heard at the beginning here the objection from Mr. Archibald for 404B. And the Judge Boyce responded, you know, for limited purposes, there's certain things from Arizona that were able to come in. Now, remember, the other thing is this, that at this time, right, Lori hadn't been charged with anything in Arizona. So she was not charged with this crime until I think it was like literally the day of her conviction. And so technically speaking, it's not in terms of criminal charges, you know, she didn't have any criminal charges in Arizona. And I wonder if part of the reason they waited is for that. But having said that, regardless, Judge Boyce has said, you know, as you just heard him say, there's a limited amount that could come in. So actually, as we watch this, we will see just how limited that is, right?
Is that common to interview individuals back at the station?
Yes.
Did Alex, in fact, participate in the interview?
He did.
Did Alex tell you why he was there that morning?
Yeah, in his interview, he told me that he had spent the night at Lori's house because they planned on doing something the next day.
So he would have spent the night of the 10th?
Yes, the 10th.
And sorry, and another good way to think about this, right? So a single source of conduct. While that is true, that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, for example, right? Again, the think about the difference, right? At the time when she was tried in Idaho, she hadn't even been charged with anything in Arizona. However, in Arizona, when her trial, right, she had been charged with and convicted already in Idaho. And as we know, that was kept out like completely, although Lori almost opened the door a bazillion times. So some of Arizona was able to come in Idaho, but like none of the Idaho shit could come in for Arizona. So again, you have to think about, even though, you know, so chronologically, Arizona happened before Idaho. So you can see how there's a connection there of where it could be relevant for building the state's theory of the case. But also, again, I think it's significant because she hadn't been charged yet in Arizona. That I think that's part of the reason why this was able to be brought in at all. And then again, the reverse is true for Arizona, where Idaho happened after and she's already been charged and convicted. So hopefully that makes sense. She had been charged. I thought that they filed that indictment literally the day of or day after her conviction. That's what I recall.
Yes, ma'am.
And did he tell you what happened with regard to Charles getting shot?
Yeah, when we started talking about it, he said that Charles and Lori were in an argument inside the house, and he was back in a bedroom, and he could hear Lori and Charles arguing, and Lori came into his room, and he basically said he intervened between Lori and Charles.
Did he indicate if he knew what the fight or what the disagreement was about?
No, he just said they were arguing.
Did he indicate that he ever saw Charles put hands on Lori?
No.
And did he indicate that he did not see that?
Yeah, he indicated they did not get physical. He never saw it get physical. It was just an argument with Charles following Lori through the house.
Did he say anything about Tylee?
Yeah, he said that when the argument had worked its way into the bedroom where he was at, Lori basically circled around behind him, and he got between Lori and Charles. And he said that Lori came back around him and made her way into the living room or into the kitchen. The living room and the kitchen were divided by a wall. and that at that point in time, Tylee came out of her room when Lori was back in the kitchen.
Did he tell you why or how he ended up shooting Charles?
Yeah, he said that when Tylee came out of her bedroom, Tylee came out of the bedroom with a bat and was basically trying to protect what he was saying is protect her mother. And that at one point in time, Tylee took the bat and kind of poked it out at him. He said at that time, Charles took the bat, and then there was an argument over the bat. And at some point in time, he said he got struck. He being Alex got struck by Charles with the bat in the back of his head.
So he described Tylee as having the bat towards Charles pointed out at him?
Yeah, he kind of demonstrated poking it out towards him.
And that Charles had then grabbed a hold of the bat from Tylee?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you observe any injury to Alex consistent with being hit with a baseball bat?
I observed a small laceration on the back of his head. It was a laceration, but it wasn't consistent with being hit extremely hard in the back of the head with a baseball bat by an athletic man.
And have you responded out to battery cases where people have been hit by objects?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it consistent with what you've seen before?
Not with a violent strike.
What did Alex indicate he had done after he shot Charles?
So Alex basically says that that the argument happens. He gets hit in the head with a bat, and he goes back to his room and retrieves a gun, and that he came back out into the living room to confront Charles because he was still in the house with the bat. Alex says he told Charles to drop the bat. Charles said, "What are you going to do about it?" And at that point, Alex says he came at him, and then Charles shot him.
You said Charles shot him. Did you?
I'm sorry, Alex shot Charles.
And Alex claims Charles came at Alex.
Yes.
And at that point, did Alex tell you how many times he had shot Charles?
He said he was not sure, but he said it was more than once.
Did he tell you where he thought he had shot him on Charles' person?
Yeah, he said center mass.
That's funny,
so torso
Glennon.
area.
That's funny.
Did you ultimately determine that Charles had been shot center mass?
Yes, Charles had 2 gunshot wounds, one to the chest, one to the lower abdomen.
And after Alex had shot Charles, did he tell you what he then did?
Yeah, after he shot Charles, he said he walked into the kitchen, washed his hands because he said he had blood on his hands from his head, and then walked back into his bedroom, set the gun down, and then called 911.
Did he tell you anything about where Lori and Tylee were when he shot Charles?
He said he didn't know. He didn't know where they were at.
Did he indicate that they were in the room with him?
I asked a couple different ways, and he just said, "I don't know where they were at at the time of the shooting."
By the way, I looked it up. It looks like what happened was Arizona had charged Lori with conspiracy prior to the Idaho trial, but I think they hadn't dropped the murder indictment until after the Idaho trial. That's what it looks like from some cursory researching there.
Did Alex indicate anything to you with regard to performing life-saving measures?
I asked if he performed CPR because when he called 911, they asked him to, and he said he had.
Did you ask Alex if he was there to help Lori?
I did. So when I was conducting my interview with Alex, we took a break for a minute. I stepped out because Detective Inclin was interviewing Lori and Tylee. And when I talked quickly to Detective Inclin, who said that Lori asked Alex to stay the night at the house because he was there because she wanted him to be there to protect him from Charles. And so I went back in and asked Alex, actually on more than one occasion, if he had been there, in fact, to protect Lori from Charles. And he adamantly said no. He said multiple times that's not the case.
But Lori had indicated that he had stayed there to protect her.
Yeah, according to Detective Inclin, that's what Lori said.
Did you ask Alex if he had called anyone else before he called 911?
I did. When I was briefed by Detective Inclin about what her interviews kind of had revealed, she told me that Lori told her.
I'm going to object, Your Honor, to hearsay.
That's sustained.
Is it common that as a case agent you speak with other detectives?
Yes.
And do you speak with other detectives about the portions of the investigation that they are conducting?
Yes.
And did you in fact speak with Detective Inclin regarding what she had learned from an interview with Miss Vallow?
I did.
Based on what she had learned from the interview, did you ask Alex whether or not he had called anyone?
I did.
And what did he tell you?
He said he had not.
Was it your understanding that that was inconsistent with what Lori had stated?
It was.
I'll object. The only way he can answer that is based upon hearsay.
And Your Honor, it's not being offered for the truth of the matter.
If it's not the truth, then it's not relevant.
I'll sustain the objection.
Did you at some point make additional observations of the scene?
I did.
And did you specifically make observations regarding the scene where Charles was found?
I did, yes.
What observations did you make?
When we were back at the house after we completed our interviews, Detective Coons was processing the scene. I was present while they were processing the scene for evidence. We learned that there was in fact 2 gunshot wounds to Charles. One of the wounds, the exit or the trajectory was down, and we pulled that projectile.
And I'm going to object, Your Honor. This testimony is based upon hearsay. He learned it from someone else.
Your Honor, I believe he's talking about his observations of the scene. I think there were other detectives there that he's referencing. If I could clarify that.
If you'll clarify, I didn't see the hearsay in that. Go ahead and clarify, Ms. White, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Moffatt, did you go back and make observations at the scene?
Yes, I did.
And were there other detectives present when you were making the observations?
There were.
And so I think you were talking about looking at the exit wound.
Yeah, so
tell us what you observed.
We were looking at basically the evidence at the residence. As I was saying, there was one bullet strike that landed in the baseboard. And then there was another bullet strike under Charles's body.
And did you notice bullet strikes anywhere else in the residence?
No, besides those 2, there were none.
The bullet strike under his body, did that lead you to believe anything regarding the position of Charles' body when he was shot?
Yeah, the bullet.
I'll object, Your Honor. Speculation.
Your Honor, I think he can answer what he believed.
I think a little additional foundation would be necessary in regards to training before he can give that opinion.
How long?
Sustain the objection on those grounds for now.
How long were you a homicide detective?
I did 11.5 years in homicide and 3 years in family crimes before that.
Have you responded out to gunshots before?
Yes, several.
Have you observed bodies that have been shot before?
Several.
Have you done trainings on bullet wounds, things of that nature?
I have. I'm currently assigned to the executive board of directors for the Arizona Homicide Investigators Association. Have been for 11 years. We conduct about 100 hours of training a year. So I have hundreds and hundreds of hours of training in homicide and related items.
And based on your training and experience, based on that mark in the floor, where did you believe Charles' body was when he was shot?
Yeah, my observations from where Charles was shot, especially when we rolled him and saw the strike underneath him, is the wounds to his abdomen was what is called a short gunshot wound. So the wound to his abdomen traveled through his abdomen and out of his shoulder, and was consistent with Charles being flat on the floor when that projectile exited his body out of his shoulder.
And was that consistent with what Alex Cox reported?
It was not.
Were you involved in transporting Lori Vallow back to the residence?
I was.
Did you make observations of Lori on the way back?
Yes, I did.
And what were those?
I'll object, Your Honor.
That's overruled.
So Detective Vinkman and I transported Tylee, Lori, and Alex back from the station to the residence while we were still processing the scene, so they could get a car and go somewhere else, or stay on scene outside of the scene, or stay at the residence outside of the scene. So Detective Vinkman was driving. Tylee was in the front seat. We were in a minivan, so I was in the far back of the minivan. And Lori and Alex were sitting basically in the middle row. The ride back from the station was bizarre, to say the least. It was very lighthearted, very just conversationalist. It was, like I said, it was very different. Bizarre.
At some point, did you, well, let me ask this. Did you continue as the case agent?
I did.
At some point, did you switch and you were no longer the case agent?
Yeah. Once I was promoted to sergeant in June of 2020, I was no longer assigned to homicide, and it needed to stay with the homicide detective as I was going back to patrol. So Detective Duncan took over as case agent.
Okay.
So, and that was based on your promotion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And Detective Duncan had been involved from the initial part of
And
the
that closes the loop on that.
investigation?
He had since the day of the incident.
Okay.
And prior to you being switched as a case agent, did you learn anything with regard to an insurance policy?
I did on
I'll
July.
object, Your Honor, based upon hearsay.
I'll sustain that.
And Your Honor, I would indicate it's not being offered for the truth of the matter, but for what was done next in the investigation.
Well, I guess the objection's being sustained because it was a question of did he learn anything, and I didn't see a foundation of how he personally would have had that information unless it was revealed through hearsay of another. Was the basis of, I think, the objection and how I ruled.
Let me have just a moment.
Yes.
Welcome, Happy Annie. Glad you're a member again. Reunited, and it feels so good. She's having a moment.
Sometimes a motive for homicide.
They can be, yes.
And based on that, do you, as part of investigations, do you look into life insurance?
We do.
Did you, in fact, in this case, look into whether or not Charles Vallow had life insurance?
I did.
Did you learn whether or not he did have life insurance on himself?
He did. He had a $1 million policy.
At some point, did you learn who the beneficiary was?
I did.
And who was that?
Well, when I contacted the insurance company, there was some confusion because had been a recent change of who the beneficiary was. So initially they weren't sure. It had been changed from Lori to Kay, Charles' sister, at a point in time a couple months prior to this event. And the legal department was reviewing the forms at the time.
Do you look into whether or not anyone attempts to make a claim shortly after someone's deceased?
Yes.
Did someone attempt to make a claim?
Yeah. When I contacted the insurance company on July.
Judge Hunter, Hearsay.
Overruled. You can continue to answer.
Thank you, sir. On July 17th, I believe it's on or around July 17th, I contacted the insurance company and Lori had tried to file a claim on that $1 million policy.
Did you learn whether or not that claim was paid out?
I later did, and it was not paid out to Lori.
I'm just one moment. I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. See, Mr. Archibald, will you be conducting cross?
Your Honor, I've previously objected to this testimony as in its entirety, so I don't have any questions.
All right, that'll conclude then the testimony of the witness. May the witness be excused or released from any subpoena.
Yes, Your Honor. I would ask that the witness be released.
Again, so another example, he asked that with every witness. Okay, so I'm gonna, since you guys didn't weigh in, I made a decision here for next. So we're gonna go in chronological order. So we're gonna go to Melanie Gibb's first law enforcement interview with Chandler Police Department. So this is from August 19th of 2020.
Okay. Would you prefer if I wear a mask?
I thought I was going to ask you, do you want?
I don't like to wear them. I think make me feel sick.
Okay.
So,
I'm not COVID positive, so.
I'm not anything. I'm
Not anything?
a health nut, so yeah, I let the puppy. Just before we start, I have so much experience talking to people like you. I have great respect. I will have great respect for the police. They're the ones that help me most of all this. And so make sure you tell me you're recording you. Because some.
It's right up there. Yep.
So okay, just then make sure you tell me because people will make sure that I know that and that you know that and you know what I mean.
Yep.
I've been through the grill. I've been through the grill. So
this is going to be very informal,
Okay.
and most of it is to I know you've been interviewed 100 times by all different types of people.
Just a few.
Just a few. So
not more than one.
so I haven't listened to the interviews you've done with Ryan Killer or with Detective Moffatt. I think was there at the same time, right?
That's right. Was he like a Gilbert police or was he a Chandler?
He was a Chandler police, so he was the case officer in this case, and he just recently was promoted. So
There it is again.
lucky us.
I'm sorry that you have to get involved because I know it's a lot of work.
It is. It is.
We've been involved from day one.
Yeah.
Well, of course you have. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I've been involved.
This is so reminiscent of Wendy Adelson, and who else did the same thing? Like, your job is so hard. Was it Lori who just said that? I feel like there was another overlap with that. Anyway, your job is so hard and da da da. It's like, yeah.
Our whole lives have changed. My life changed a bit differently than yours.
I bet. I mean, do you go around and have to answer questions every day?
Oh no.
Okay, good.
No, people, a lot of people don't know and recognize me.
Okay, good.
Because people, you think about how many people on the planet and how many people are Gilbert. People in Idaho recognize me more when I was up there.
I bet.
Yeah.
How long were you up there?
How long did I end up staying? I think
Because you were planning for 2 weeks, right?
I was there for 2 weeks. I left earlier. I think a week.
Okay.
Maybe not somewhere around a week.
Okay.
But I got to go to Mesa Falls while I was there.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it was something else, man.
Yeah, I was on the standby list to go up there, but then they
Wow.
kind of were, I guess they waived my appearance. So.
Well, be glad.
I know, right?
It's nothing like getting on the seat and
Yeah.
the whole world's watching you on video.
Well, that's gotta be, it is. It is a little, it's a little stressful, but I always tell people, I keep testifying to the truth.
Oh, exactly.
Keep testifying to the truth,
Exactly.
so go ahead and ask whatever questions you want.
Well, that's what I was like. I was like, well, if you want me to tell the truth, here it comes, and I'm not gonna back away.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna let it make me crumble or fall because I'm telling the truth. And
Yes.
so you have to be confident with that.
Absolutely.
And if you're okay with the world hearing your truth, Then you just gotta spill beans.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just have mostly what I have, and Dan's got some other stuff. Dan kind of went on some different tangents with some most of the Gilbert reports and body worn camera, that type of thing. Most of what I'm trying to do is come up with a.
This is Melanie Gibb. She was probably, I would say, the closest to Lori if for the inner circle of this group, the cult, as it were. She was there for all of it, basically. I would say like Lori's best friend, and yeah, just totally there for all the castings and all this stuff, went to all the conventions. I think she was also there the day that Lori met Chad. Basically, every time Lori was doing her Lori stuff, like Melanie was there. Yeah.
The timeline or better understanding the timeline, and hoping that you can answer some of these questions. So the best of my knowledge is October of 2018. Is that correct?
That's
when
when I
Lori
met her.
and when you and Lori met?
That's right.
Okay. Is that also when Lori and Chad met?
They met weeks after it. So I met her by herself first.
Okay.
And then I had known him already, but not super involved in knowing him, if that makes sense. Just kind of a casual knowledge of him. And anyway.
Okay. So you met, do you remember the date or anything?
For what?
When you met Lori?
It was like on the third or fourth. I was teaching. Where did I first go? I was teaching at an event at a church in Mesa.
Okay.
And so I think it was the first week. It was like a Tuesday or Thursday. And I think I might have that on my phone.
And you guys, my understanding is, my investigation is you met through Jason Mao.
He's the one that met her first in the temple, and then he told her.
Hey, you might like this girl.
Okay. Yep, it's the 4th.
4th of October?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I talked to her on the phone right before then, so but physically we met. I keep forgetting that part, but we physically met. That's what I remember it the most, is when we physically met. And so he just said like-minded people. And then she called me and said, oh, I said, well, I'm going to teach if you want to meet me. And anyway, we met at the church. And so.
And where was that at? Remember?
McKellips and Stapley. I have it written down. That's how I remember now.
Oh,
yeah. And I spoke to a stake there about preparedness, self-reliant stuff.
Very good.
Yeah.
So October, so a couple weeks later, how did Lori meet Chad?
So
was that at another event?
Yeah. So that was at, let me see, this is the day. 19. Yeah. I probably said it to somebody, but I don't know, 26th. Let's see if that's it. Yep. Okay. The weekend of the 26th.
And the 26th of October.
So is that what, 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later? 1, 2, 3 weeks later. 3 weeks later. So we go to the event and preparing people in St. George, Utah. And we go out, there's 6 of us in the car, five of us. I remember it was like 3 in the back, 2 in the front.
Okay.
And we drove up there as some friends, and they didn't know Lori that well, but anyway, they're friends of mine.
Okay.
And I didn't know all of them. There was one friend I didn't know very well. But anyway, we just thought we'd take a trip up there. And so as we got there, she quickly got introduced. I don't know if I introduced her or they walked up to each other. I can't even remember at this point. But I just know that she knew who he was because of his books.
And that was a preparing a people event?
That was a preparing
a people.
Okay.
Yeah, so they just started chatting, and everything you heard is.
Was the speech given to by Chad at that event?
He was one of the speakers. Yeah.
Chad's speech.
What other speakers were there?
Jason was there, and Hector.
Redacted. We'll just see if we can. She's naming other people. Okay.
Well, they all have the same event, so if hopefully it goes that weekend, I'd say yes. Okay, so that's Chad. So that was in November because he talked about Thor. Thor wasn't at the St. George. That was here.
That was Mesa in November?
Yeah, because I was the only one Thor spoke at.
Did you know what day that was?
Yep. Thankfully, these things belong to information. So that's October, November. So, yeah, okay. So
I know, right? Gross.
November 2018.
And that was at Mesa.
Yep.
Another preparing of people?
Yep, same company.
Was that one of the podcasts you were doing or a different event?
This was not a podcast. This was an event.
Okay.
Totally different, yeah.
So just for my reference and for recording, that what I just played for you would have been, I just labeled it Chad meeting.
Oh, okay.
So, okay.
Yeah, so that was the one I just listened to was the second time Chad and Lori met.
Okay.
That was their second time to physically see each other. That I know of. I mean, if they saw
That
each
you're
other
aware of.
before,
And
that I'm aware of.
That's all we would be asking you to.
Yeah, that I'm aware of. What they do on their personal all the time, I don't know.
All right, so we're playing, here, let me go back to this. So I've got Melanie listed your phone number, obviously the number that I've been calling you at, the 6340.
Yeah.
How long do
Detective
you have that?
Coons, that's the guy whose name I was trying to remember. He's sitting over here at the end of the table. That's the one who Alex's ex-wife spoke with. Yeah.
1 year, 2 years, 5 years?
5, 6.
Okay,
5,
so
6
it's been a while.
years. Yeah.
Okay, so before you met Lori?
Oh, yeah.
You had that, okay. She has that number in one of her accounts as Melanie.
Yeah.
And then another account, she has it as Phoebe.
Yes.
Is
That
something
doesn't
that you're
surprise me.
aware of?
Well, it doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
She had different names she liked to call me because she got to the point, I think, where she just got more secretive with her life.
Okay.
You know, so.
Yeah.
So that was aware, and then you were aware that she would
Yeah,
refer
she
to
would
us.
refer to us.
Any reason why?
Yeah. So you know how Chad would tell her who her lives were?
Okay.
Oh boy.
And so in one of her lives, she had a whole bunch of children, and one of those was Phoebe. And so she said that was me.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I know when you missed it too, we learned from, I forget which thing this was in. Oh, it was from, hold on, it might have been in Serena Sharp's interview that Chad also in a past life was also Lori's dad. Lori was Chad's daughter in a past life. So that's creepy.
You wanted her children in that previous life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe that. Just for the record.
Yeah, that's what she's saying. That she's
Just let me get that out there.
Yeah. All right, one more record, and I have two more actually. So here's another recording. Tell me if you recognize it.
It's Lori.
I feel like
So that was in my house.
Okay.
And there was friends there. So yeah, that's Lori.
Do you know when this was?
Oh wow.
So it was shortly after I met her, and I usually have Friday classes.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly the date because I would have to go research a lot of emails to figure out when I had that. But that was before she met Chad. I believe that. At least I believe that recording.
So would it be safe to say if they met in October, so I can just, it would be October 2018?
I have recordings on my phone of that one, but she did a couple, so let me just check them.
Okay.
Yeah, so Melanie's saying she was also Phoebe and Phoebe was Lori's daughter. And I was just noting that in Serena Sharp's interview, I think it was Serena's, she said that, you know, she was also Lori's daughter. So all these other girls were Lori's daughters, according to Chad, but Chad also said that he was Lori's father.
Yeah, that was before preparing people.
Yeah, it was 26.
Thank you. Yeah, you're gonna be helpful. It could have been, I have it written down as the 19th, and I also have the 12th. So anyway, I think it's the 12th or the 19th.
Okay, let me see if I can.
And you probably have both of those. I gave them to Elder. Officer.
Elder, he'll be happy you called him Elder.
Sorry.
Oh, Laffy.
Turned it around to where the judges believed him instead of me. And he was constantly trying to get custody of my 3-year-old daughter. And
So you can spell that, which is great.
put it in my face. And I went through a lot of years of this kind of hard stuff. And I was going to murder him. I was going to kill him. Like the scriptures say, like, if I killed him, just to stop the pain and to stop him coming after me and to stop him coming after my children.
Okay, she's talking about Joe Ryan.
And I just thought I couldn't take it anymore. And I would go through the scriptures and find all the things like, if he comes against you once, if he comes against you twice, if he comes against you 3 times, then you can kill him. It says it in the scriptures.
This is interesting. Lori is saying she found things in scriptures to justify her wanting to kill her ex-husband.
Yes.
Or well, I guess not ex-husband, dead husband. Husband number 3, Joe Ryan.
Does that, do you recognize the script? Were you there when this was said?
Yeah.
Okay, so you recall her saying that?
Oh, yeah.
Now, she refers to the scriptures and saying that. Do you know what scripture she's?
I would think Doctrine and Covenants, section 90, is it 98, where he talks about when Joseph Smith is talking about those parts where if people hurt you in the family, then you forgive them, and then you get to a point where after so many times, I think that's what she's referring
Let me see
to.
if she had something else here.
There it is. There's my answer. I don't want to do anything that's wrong. I did not have a murderous heart. I just wanted to stop the bleeding and stop the pain. And so someone wise was speaking to me and said, you need to go to the temple. So I went and met my bishop and I was like, I'm either going to turn my life to the temple or I'm going to commit murder. So
Wow, I forgot about this.
And I was perfectly honest because at that point I had nothing to lose. You get to the bottom rung and I had nothing to lose. And he came right for it.
Wow.
So that would have been, we're thinking October 19th.
I think that was that one.
Okay, so that was
He's like,
before, we're still,
give me the temple recommend or I'll commit murder. That's basically what that
we're
was.
safe to say it's October.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know who her bishop would have been at that time?
So she was living in that first house I met her, which is the very large house. I know what it looks like. I do not know the name of her bishop. And they moved a lot. So, you know, whenever she's referring to that, probably was when she lived in Hawaii or Texas or who knows.
Oh.
So it wouldn't have been a current one. Because she was talking about the past, because she had already been divorced, or no, yeah, she divorced Joe and already was with Charles by this point. So we're talking years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Divorce Joe? What?
My next question to you, help me out here.
Does she not know July? No.
It looks like July 9th.
Okay.
So 2 days before Charles was killed. Do you remember being at Lori's house?
I don't remember the day, but I remember I was spending the night because I was divorcing my husband. And so I was, she was like, you should probably not stay at home all the time, that kind of talk.
Okay.
I said, well, sure, I'd be happy to spend the night or whatever. And so I was at her house. I get up that morning and she goes, you gotta leave.
Wow.
I'm like, why? She goes, Charles is coming down. He's gonna try to kill me. And I'm like, and she was like a storm all the time. And I was calm.
Sure.
I'm a very calm person. I was like, oh, well, why? What reason does he have? I don't understand. And
Wow.
so she explained to me that her brother was flying into town.
Oh,
Which,
boy.
I know that I've heard, you meet a lot of people on the journey. So anyway, that he did come into town, Adam, and then Zach, her nephew, and her dad. They were all after her, so that'd been 4 people. And Brandon Boudreaux, right? So that'd been 5 people.
They were after her?
That's what she said. They were all after her. They're coming to get her. And I said, well, why? And she said, well, I have $3 million of insurance that Charles changed on the documentation because he was an insurance guy. Anyway, and she said they wanted the money for that. So they would kill her to get money because they were evil. And they were
Interesting. That's a
they were
lot
all
of projection, isn't it?
zombies by this point. So that was her reason. So anyway, I left and
Interesting.
I got a call. I think it was 4 days later. I felt like it was. Tell me what happened. Yeah.
Do you remember any of the text messages between you guys? Because I know there was one, and I'm trying to look for it. I'm just going off the top of my head. I know you said something like, I'm here in front of your house.
Yeah, and I couldn't. She was, sometimes when I go there, she didn't hear me. So I figure out where she was, go around the back.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I could have definitely said that. That sounds like something I would have texted. And I don't know when that was. So I know I didn't see her until she called me, or I called her. I think she called me. I can't recall, but anyway, I came after she told me, like, 4 or 5 something days later, I came to visit her at that house that when he was shot in.
Tell me about that. What happened then?
So when I went up there, she first of all asked me about like the news, like if I watched the news, and so I said no, I don't watch the news. So she told me, she said, well, he was coming, he was plotting, to kill me, and then she said, and I said, well, how did he die? And she says, well, he came. So I got to remember details. It's been foggy, sorry. So if I don't say as clear as I did last time, it's because I'm trying to forget all this. It's hard for me to recall it all the time, honestly. But anyway, so she says, I remember her saying things like this. I'll just be all over the place, but these are the things I remember. I think JJ they were buckling him in the car or something like that. And his phone was like in the middle between the 2 car seats, she said.
Okay.
And I can't recall where he was at the time, but she said that she was out there with JJ in the car. And then she said, she always referred to her certain spirit people that she talked to. So she said this one spirit person that, I'm trying to remember how to pronounce it now, but anyways, out there. She said, she told me to pick up the phone, to get the phone. So she said, she grabbed Charles's phone, went to the house, and he freaked out on her, was saying things like, you give me my phone back? And she said, and probably Alex said too, I don't know between the 2 of them. But anyway, yeah, she said that he started, yelling at her, give me my phone back now. He started getting enraged.
Correct.
I think
Kids were found in June. So a couple months.
Tylee comes out with a bat and is saying, I don't know, they're fighting. She says that he's threatening her for her life, threatens to kill her, something like that. And they're fighting. Then Alex and him get in a fight. And then he goes to his bedroom, felt a prompting, I think, if I remember correctly, get his gun and kind of self-defense. I remember at one point he said that Charles was on top of him and it's like he had 1,000 demons in him. That's what he said. And then
That's what Alex said?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, sorry, I'm going between what she said and he said. So I don't know if she said that. Anyway, sorry. And so anyway, so Charles came, he tried to push Charles off him at one point, if I remember correctly. and said he was really strong, something like that. And then I think that's when he got the gun. I'm not sure, but anyway, then he shot him. Yeah, something. So anyway, lots of arguing, lots of threatening.
Did you recall her saying that she got the phone from
So
the
she
car?
got the phone from the car. That's what she told me. The interesting thing, I said to her, I was like, so did you look on the phone? Like, is he, you know, what did you find? And I was like, how did you know how to open it? And she's like, well, I asked my angels and they told me the code. It was like 1,000. And so I opened it up and I said, so was he really cheating on you? Like all the things you said, oh yeah, there were all these pictures of girls and all these.
Interesting. So that's right. We heard a whiff of this from somewhere else where Lori had been telling certain people that Charles, we heard it from Alex, that that Charles was, or sorry, Adam, sorry, that Charles was cheating on her. And of course, there's no evidence of that. This doesn't surprise me. We've seen this in other cases when, you know, one spouse is trying to besmirch the other spouse and is probably involved in their death. They create all these circumstances. I mean, this is just so textbook, right? So it doesn't surprise me at all. And of course, he wasn't cheating. So
these things on it. So she was trying to verify her story about him cheating on her, and then, you know, him being this.
She, of course, she lies to Melanie and says she found that.
Now I look back now, that's what she was trying to do. I didn't know that at the time.
And this would have been 4 days after when you came over to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you went over there on the 9th, and I'm just going to say the 9th because it looks like your phone, that's when you said, hey, I'm here.
Okay.
And she made a comment that says, I'm out back on an important call.
Yeah, Lori was cheating. Correct.
Did you go out back and see her? Was she frantic that night?
Oh,
Was
no,
she?
I remember, was it the evening?
Yes.
It was this before the death?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was the night you said. No, she wasn't frantic. Let me check what I recall.
Now, when they were separated,
It's hard. It's hard too. Sometimes it's just hard to. Anyway. I remember, and I can't remember if it's this night. This is why, because I know I spent the night more than once. This is why I got to remember the night. I hope maybe I'm remembering this correctly. I remember she's just like, just so dark. I'm just so upset. Satan's really attacking me. I just have, you know, she's talking about her like getting a headache or not feeling well to the point of really bad.
Right. I
so
remember about this.
How bad she felt.
That when you get a headache, it means Satan's attacking you. That's
She was probably talking to Chad. That's my guess. She was always talking to him on the phone. So I didn't always ask her because she was just, and she'd go off in her own little land, and I kind of separate myself at times from her, so I didn't always pay attention. I didn't pay attention to a lot of stuff because she was kind of a little bit drama, and so she was like in a whirlwind, and I was kind of outside that whirlwind. Does that make sense? That's the best way I can describe me and her, because she's got the whirlwind, and I'm like, I'm not a drama queen. I don't really get your energy, but okay, you know what I mean? So that's what I remember. Yeah.
Let me back up to January. So obviously, it looks like from what we can tell is in January, around January 30th, was an argument between her and Charles.
Oh, is that what it
And then
was?
that's when she was going to leave.
Okay, that's January 30th.
January 30th. So it looks like on the 31st is when I think you might have went with her to Gilbert PD.
Okay.
Or January 30th.
Oh, right.
The 31st, they were Gilbert. You went to Gilbert PD.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's when they told her about the mental health evaluation.
That's right.
And she agreed to go.
That's right.
So over there to be seen on that.
Yeah.
From that point on, do you know where she went?
Let me back up just a minute because
Okay.
it's important.
Yeah.
When she was in there, that police station that day, and she was talking to whoever that officer was,
Okay.
she was telling him the things that I'm sure she thought were important, which was, you know, he's cheating on me. This is a domestic, dispute. She said she knew how to handle the police, so she just knew that they would get involved in a certain way and care about certain things, you know. Anyway, I was listening. I could probably have that conversation later, but anyway, she's talking to them and she's telling them all about him, you know, committing adultery or whatever, cheating on her in California, something about some women, I don't know. So I said to her, like, she's like, he says to her, well, do you have proof that he's cheating on you? And she said, yeah. And so he didn't ask her to provide that information.
Yeah.
I later said to her, I was like, do you have that information? She's like, no. So I thought,
doesn't surprise me.
Why do you think she was doing that? If you had to guess, like
Typically.
accusing him of.
She was trying to me, because of this idea she had that Charles was this Ned Snyder, right?
Okay, yeah.
That she was going to do everything she could to paint a picture that he was bad, but nobody would probably believe that he was Ned Snyder. So my guess is she's trying to look like he's really a bad person. That's what I'm seeing. Is like she's just creating this monster to make him look like a monster, which he absolutely wasn't. And so she's trying to make it legitimate, I think, looking back. You know, she's trying to make it legitimate, look like he was just a bad person. So they should have a reason to leave him or whatever she was going to do, which, holy cow, she get into. But anyway, does that answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to be as
So
accurate as
back to that Ned
possible.
Schneider. When was the first time you heard that from Ned Schneider?
So it was in January sometime.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was on the phone with Chad.
Okay.
And I was in her house, and I remember even just like where she was when she told me, how you remember the spots. I remember she was like in her back door coming in.
Okay.
She went out talking probably outside, and I wasn't
Okay.
listening to that. But then she came back in, and I knew she was talking to him.
It doesn't surprise me that Chad came up with that name.
So she was kind of going back and forth, and then she got the phone and told me about him and told me what Chad said, which was he became his Ned Snyder person. That was in January 4th, 31st, because
that makes
by
sense.
then
I mean,
he already
yeah.
knew, right? Which amazing that she told him that. It's crazy.
Any other names
Yeah.
that she referred to Charles?
Yeah. So the first one was Ned, and then the second was Garrett.
Okay.
Garrett,
Right.
Garrett, something like that.
Okay.
I believe the third one was Hiplos, which Hiplos was different because Hiplos was supposed to be a combination. of
Hiplos.
So it was just like a multi dark spirits together.
Remember, the P is
Yeah,
the
that
H
third
is
one was
silent.
came down was
The
like
H
that
is
first.
silent.
But that, we call it Hiplos or Hiplos.
Yeah, because that's how it looks like it's spelled.
Hiplos, that's how she would say it, Hiplos.
Hiplos?
Yeah.
Okay, but that is spelled Hiplos.
Yes, yeah.
But that was a specific name. You knew that to be a specific name in referring to Charles.
Charles, yes.
Okay, was that name ever used to refer to anybody else?
Not that I'm aware
Okay.
Great.
And so we have Ned, Garrett, and Hiplos.
Did she give context as to why those names for Charles?
of. So
I love this. Like they're like, okay, we got. I mean, it's so funny how this matters, right? But like they're like, he's remembering all this. He's listening. He's like, okay, the order of the names, right?
Anybody else?
Crazy.
not that I'm aware
Okay. And then so we have Ned, Garrett, and Hiplos.
Did she give context as to why those names for Charles?
of. So Chad would be the one to give the context to her. She wasn't the one that would come up with stuff like this. So Ned Snyder, as I probably said on the air, you probably heard it, is Chad had this, he said that it's some childhood friend that Charles had and that he died. And then he came back he didn't ever leave. He was an unclean spirit that got trapped on earth. And he was now attached to him for years and he'd been studying him, right? And his behaviors and stuff like that. That's what Chad came up with. And so then he pushed his spirit out of the body and took over. That's what he said.
Push Chad, Charles' spirit.
Yeah, so his spirit's now moved on. So if she totally believed it, I'm not sure, but I would guess at least most of her believed it. And so she believed that Charles was gone. He was already gone. So she was treating him like he was Ned Snyder. At least that's what I got an impression. You know, I don't know. I mean, my guess is how much did she believe it? Like I said on TV, if Chad's saying he's a good one. So there was some doubt, right? There's some little doubt. Wish everybody doubted it, but anyway.
So with that being said, when we talked about dark spirits, light spirits,
Translated beings.
There's scores,
I don't know that word.
that makes score for like a 4-point.
Oh,
dark,
yeah.
light, dark.
Yeah.
4-pointer.
Yeah, I know all those levels. Yeah.
Is that something that Chad believes in? Is that something that?
No, he's the one that he frameworked it all. And so when he met her, he had this whole thing drawn out on paper. She would just draw it to people. She'd make people like, oh, you guys see, this is so cool. And she would draw the whole thing on paper. So she'd go, okay, this is the line. She took great joy in sharing this. 4.1 means that you made a covenant before you came here.
This is great. I haven't watched this in a long time, and this is really great. This is a lot more information than in terms of the inner workings, I feel like, than we got in the second interview. But this is so interesting.
She'd make people like, oh, you guys see, this is so cool. And she would draw the whole thing on paper. So she'd go, okay, this is the line. And she took great joy in sharing this.
A great joy.
4.1 means that you made a covenant before you came here. It's your third life. You finally made a covenant, light or dark. So you've been on the earth one time is your first time. No, pre-mortals, first time. Second times.
That's hilarious.
Sorry, 2.0 would be your first time on earth. Okay. Then the next time would be, it's been a while since I've thought about this. 3.
Yeah, the number
3.1.
The number refers to how many times you've been on Earth. This is their whole system, right? The number is how many times you've been on Earth, and then that's the first number. And then after the decimal point, that's where you rank on the light versus dark, and they contradict themselves. Sometimes the higher the number, the more you are to light, and sometimes the higher the number, the more you are dark. And in fact, that came up. I think it was in the Arizona trial. It came up with something we watched recently where they're like, or it might have been an interview where they're like, wait, hang on. So they're like, if they're nearing 100%, or it was when it was the percentages, the death percentages. Sorry, it was the death percentages where it was like 99% sometimes meant you were 99% like to being evil enough that you're going to die. And then sometimes it was like 1% also meant the same thing. So yeah.
You gotta remember that. I don't remember. I tried to blank that out. Anyway, that would be the next time. People still had decided if they were light or dark by that point, according to Chad's theories. So when you died again, because you come back now the third time, that third time now you made a covenant. No, that was the 4.1.
I thought it was
Yeah,
Nikki.
the third time would be 4.1.
Let's see.
And that would mean that you made you either made a contract with Satan or Jesus.
Okay.
And then
Right.
you either lied. That was
Isn't that great? So 4.1 means you either made a contract with Satan or Jesus. See what I mean? It's like this way Chad could just change it on a dime and keep the number the same.
light contract or a dark contract. And
Crazy.
that's when the numbers started 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, then 5, then did it up to 9 or whatever, or 8 or something like that.
So would those be different than a trust scale? Like, have you ever heard of trust? Like,
I get a guess.
like a trust, like.
That would be different.
Okay.
Yes, this is why police like to talk about figuring out what these recorded or these texts mean, because they're not going to tell you. So trust was different. So 4.1 just meant how many times. Okay, the numbers meant how many times you've been on Earth.
Okay.
The L or the D means if you sign a contract with Satan or Jesus Christ. So if it's light, you sign one with him and you're good. You could switch over and go dark though, according to them.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's that. Could you regress?
Could you go
can
back?
always
Could
go
you go
back.
from light to dark to
Yeah.
light?
Yeah. That was very hard, they said, but yes, you could.
Okay. Awesome.
Great. Just great.
There's hope for you.
There's hope.
Maybe.
He said there's
Hope
hope.
for us.
Y'all.
Um,
Oh my God. He said there's hope for you. That's hilarious.
Could you
You
go
can
back?
always
Could you
go
go
back,
from
yeah.
light to dark to
Yeah.
light?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was very hard, they said, but yes, you could.
Okay. Awesome. There's
Anyway.
hope for you.
There's hope.
Maybe.
There's hope for us. And so then they had these different scales. They would come up later. So everything evolved later. So nothing was all in the beginning. It was
Okay.
like little by little, like the rope got tighter and tighter. It's more knowledge. Well, I say fake knowledge, whatever you want to call it. The lies got bigger and darker. as
It's not
more time
knowledge, obviously.
But in the beginning, nobody knew about these things, and the zombie word didn't come till later. And you probably know on text when they started using the Z word. I don't remember when they did, but it came shortly, sometime after. So yeah, there was this trust thing, and then they had a scale of 0 to 100% how much you could trust people.
Okay.
I was supposed to be like 97%. They were always building me up, telling how wonderful I was. Right, and so anyway, she would sometimes share like, oh, this person or that person, it's not trustworthy, it's this person, and that was their little game. Anyway, so yeah, there was different characteristics.
Quiz does all the work. And I thought it does.
How about, and maybe you know or don't know, vibrations?
So vibrations, yes, I'm aware of that too. So according to how he would check, he used that little pendulum thing a lot.
Oh my God. Can you imagine, guys? Chad.
And 1,000 was supposed to mean, if you got to 1,000, that means you're translated, or you're beginning your translation.
This is great. I love it.
Anyway, so 1,000, and then as you get higher in your vibration, you could portal at some point.
Portal.
Maybe, I'm trying to remember what she would say, 2,500 maybe, or something like that.
Okay.
And so the more you went into the temple, your vibration would increase too. So it's just like your light would increase, your vibration, that kind of idea.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So you mentioned zombies.
Yeah.
Was that ever?
What a segue. So you mentioned zombies. Love it.
Yeah.
Was that ever a term that you were exposed to by them? Okay. Tell me more about the zombies.
So Ned was first this dark, unclean spirit that took over his body. So he was just referred to as Ned in the beginning.
Okay.
But then, I don't remember when, but at some point they're just called zombies.
Okay.
And so then they had these ideas about zombies. She said she had a dream once that an earthquake happened in Utah. And so people that fell on the earth, if they were able to get rid of all the zombies in the world, then those zombies wouldn't get into those dead bodies and come back, kind of idea. And so what she talked to her, what I saw her do, she would just do like a priesthood thing, where she had the priesthood power. She thought she had the patriarchal priesthood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chad always told her she had all these powers. Anyway, and she would say, I remember one time she took a map and she's like, okay, here's the United States. We're going to do a prayer. Let's find out how many zombies are in Arizona. Okay, there's 20,000, whatever, 10. I don't even remember the numbers. It was so out there. And then she'd say a little prayer, whatever words she'd come up with that she thought were powerful. And then he would check, oh, somebody died. Look, you can't go find out. Well, he'd say that later today, but anyway.
I remember. she's making fun of all this, like this is so crazy and whatever. But remember, she was all in at the time. So we just, I'm sure you guys know that. I just want to reiterate that now that now that everyone's making fun of these crazy ideas, and Chad and Lori are murderers, at this time they're pending trial, but it's just interesting, right? Like now that everyone's going to make fun of you, you're like, oh, well, I didn't really believe it. Correct.
So then that was her way. In my opinion, what I saw at least was just through a prayer that these people would pass away.
And so
Does that make sense?
the people
Like
are
that is
actually
insane though anyway. Even if you are not killing them yourselves, to pray that somebody dies is crazy.
living beings.
Yeah, so they would be like, everybody, let's say this police station, they're all alive.
Mhm.
And so let's say they would check and they say, oh, there's 10 zombies in the building, right?
Wow.
Something like that. And then they'd do a prayer. And then they would say, oh, according to his little pendulum or whatever, oh, it looks like out of the 20,000 that were in Arizona, yesterday we found out there was 10,000 people that died, or there's only 500 left. Come up with something.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And so they actually suffered a physical death?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah,
so
they would
we
just
would,
die. Their
in
spirit
that
would
example,
leave.
in that
Wow.
example, the 10 people here. at the
Yeah, so
police
those people
department,
will be dead in the
the
morning.
10 people will be dead in the
Yeah,
morning.
just by their prayer.
Okay.
But there was no evidence, so nobody really knew that was true, because everybody dies every day. There was no way to.
Mm-hmm.
To know that was
No, it was
contributed.
ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But yeah, that was his explanation of, oh yeah, this is how many. But now they got to the point where all the zombies were wiped off. So according to their prayers, but they had no evidence of seeing it. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I will just say, I have always had a thought that part of the reason, I think there's a lot of reasons why the killings happened, but I think part of it, as you watch it leading up to that, is because this is true with any cult, right? Or anyone that wants to be like brainwashing people. If you're making shit up, eventually it's going to get to the point where if you're like making promises that something's going to happen. Okay, perfect example, Twin Flames, right? Jeff and Shalia. Their whole thing that they're selling people on for that cult is you're going to find your twin flame, right? Your perfect match, your perfect lover, blah, blah, right? And because most of the people that were joining were women, right? And then they weren't finding their perfect person or whatever, right? Then Jeff and Shalia changed it to, well, your perfect person's already here within the group. And then they started forcing gender conversions so that then they could see, look, look, you found your perfect, there it is. We did it. It's true. It's right. You see what I mean? It's just like with Alex Murdaugh checking himself into rehab to try to prove he has a drug addiction. Same. It's like you get to the point where you have to, what's the word I'm looking for? The return on the investment, right? You have to deliver. You have to deliver what it is you're saying you can do, or people will leave, right? So I always think about that. And it's interesting because what she just said that made me think of it was how, if he's like, yep, there's 50,000 zombies here. And look, we just read the news and 50,000 people died or whatever, but it's like, there's nothing to back that up. Right. It's like, if you want people to believe that these powers are real, then you're going to have to find a way to deliver. So that's always been in the back of my mind as well as like, look, we said this person's a zombie and now they're dead. See, and they could actually prove it if it was someone in the family or whatever. So pony up proof. Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's hilarious to us. So yeah, exactly. So that was probably one of, honestly, my first thoughts about this case was like, just from a cult perspective, my first take on this was like that they were trying to give proof, that their thing was real. So people would continue following them and they could grow their cult. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
All right. Yeah. So about Charles's truck at the airport?
I heard that it was at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
She told me that Alex drove it to the airport.
This would have been in January when
he flew out of town.
He went out
of town,
right.
And then he went to the airport, dropped his truck off. Like, she said he always dropped it off.
Yes.
And then Alex came to get it, and then they put it somewhere. I think. Okay, we'll go back to that because you're talking about where different places she can go. Yeah.
I know.
So Alex recovered it.
Yes.
And is that where you guys put his clothes to? Charles's clothes?
No. So let me try to remember the best. This
Okay.
is a little. I don't remember all the details because.
And remember, Chad had been telling people right about that, like with Tammy, he had been saying, oh, he had this vision that she was going to die. What was that exactly? Like die before she turned 50 or whatever the case may be or whatever. You know, again, it's just like, it's just like people that predict the end of the world, right? Now they have a harder time. There's actually a joke about this in the show Parks and Rec, for any of you guys who have seen it, about that group that comes to the park. But anyway, it's like if you're like, yep, this is the last day on Earth, and it's like this is the date, and then it doesn't happen. So they're like, oh wait, we did the math wrong. It's actually this date, and then they pick another date in the future, and then it just keeps going on, right? They're never going to be able to back that one up. But as far as like, for example, like with Chad, like he'd been saying that about Tammy, and it's like by his whole story, of course, it didn't work. But to be like, oh, she died in her sleep, it's like, yeah, well, I guess again, that's trying to show that his visions are correct, right?
Crazy and rushing, but
that's funny.
At some point, let's see, I went over to her house and I saw her box of his clothes. So she had a box that she put his clothes in. She put one in the storage, like back behind food storage.
Okay.
And then she took another one to DI or Goodwill, and she dropped it off at Goodwill. And I was like, isn't that a bit like, isn't this kind of overboard what you're doing? No, I was told I got to do this. You know, Jesus told me this is what I got to do. So anyway, and so his clothes were not in the truck. I mean, that's the only thing I saw is the box and behind there, and then the box that went there. And she might have done other things, but I don't remember what she did. I know she did. I know she was going through some paperwork up in the office, looking for passports and important documents and something about a computer, but I can't remember. She can't remember doing
Charles's computer.
It's interesting. I'm just thinking about too the mechanism of death, right? When you think about all the bodies, it's like Charles. It's like, okay, it was their story for that was self-defense, and then it's interesting because you have the kids, and the whole thing with the kids was they're just like the kids are missing, and they just seem to think no one was going to ever like the people are just going to forget about the kids. But my point being that then you look at Tammy, and Tammy was like they didn't make Tammy quote unquote disappear. Like, oh, where's Tammy? No one could find her, right? Because some people, that's how they do it. They're like, oh, this person's missing. Where are they? We don't know. And like with Tammy, it's like the body's still there, right? Like, oh, she is. When you think about the psychology of it, it's interesting how they chose to have some people be found, and then with the kids, it was different. That was the exception for, like, if you want to call it like I don't know if an MO is the right word, right? But like, I mean, I guess maybe it's the right word. It's just interesting that their strategy with the kids isn't like, oh no, the kid's not waking up. It's like the kids are just disappeared. But like, those are the only ones who they thought they were going to be able to, those were the only ones where it's like, oh, they're just, or well, I guess they're like, we know where they are. But like, again, they didn't expect the bodies to be found, I guess would be a way to think of it. Welcome. We have a new friend, Meow Now. Welcome. Love the name. Right. I think that we are all on the same page. If somebody said zombies in a religious state, I'd have them tell them they have a screw loose for sure. Yeah. And that's true. They needed the kids. That's a good point. They needed the kids to like to collect Social Security. And then with the adults, it was like thinking the life insurance. So then they need to be dead. So yeah, that could be that. That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that does explain it. Yeah. So, but yes, welcome to Meow Now. Woo.
Yeah, I don't remember what she did with it. Did she take it? I don't remember if she took it, but I remember something about a computer, Charles's computer, and about money being transferred and things like that. And at some point, she wanted me to follow her. She was going to put the truck somewhere else. I'm trying to remember the details of this. So she drives it to a hotel in Gilbert. And she just parks it there. I don't think she was staying there. I don't think so.
She had said that she was staying at a hotel
She
in
was
PD.
she was staying at a hotel. I did see her at one hotel, but that wasn't the same hotel. That's what I'm trying to remember. I think it was like a I remember she said something like a Marriott something. Courtyard.
Okay, Courtyard by Marriott.
Does that sound right?
I think I've seen a Courtyard by Marriott.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I don't know.
Tight group here.
I'm not good with hotel names or car names. Don't ask me names now. Hardly. That's not my thing. So I remember she wanted to move the truck. She moved it. I remember she dropped it off. She drove it and dropped it off at this place.
Random girl, we've missed
It
you.
was right off the highway. It's like 202. It was right by the temple, you know, like that 202.
Okay. The new temple in Gilbert?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was near that location.
Do you know
How's the therapy going?
who helped her with that?
Well, I was with her
Oh,
in
you
the car.
with her?
I was with her in her car.
So you followed her in the car?
I think so. Yeah, it was just me and her.
Okay,
I
and was
can't
that
remember if it was her
after,
car or my car. I can't, that's what I'm trying to remember, is like what car we were driving.
is it before or after you went to Gilbert PD?
By the way, I just now noticed, I'm sorry, that's Detective Duncan, by the way. So both of these detectives testified in Lori's trial. So we have Detective Coons over there on the end, and this is Detective Duncan, again, the state's last witness there. This would have been when he you know, at this point, he's taken over as the case agent, right? So.
I think it was before. I think it was before, whenever, because, let me just, okay, it was before. This is how, I gotta remember events.
Was it
So
202?
what happened?
I missed it if they said 202. There was also a number that came up in the testimony, I think with Detective Duncan on the stand, about 24.
Well, I was with her.
Oh,
I was with her in her car.
So you followed her in the car?
I think so. Yeah, it was just me and her.
Okay,
I'm
and was
trying
that
to remember if it was her
after?
car or my car. I can't, that's what I'm trying to remember, is like what car we were driving.
Is it
By the
before
way,
or after
both Twiz and Northwest, to my recollection, used to live I know Twiz used to live in Arizona. I believe Northwest said that they used to also live in Arizona.
you went to Gilbert PD?
I believe that's what happened. Wow, it's hot out here now.
It was before. I think it was before, whenever, because, let me just, okay, it was before. This is how, I gotta remember events. So what happens, so anyway, she parks it there. I don't hear from her. She takes JJ to school, drops him off. Charles steals her purse. Anyway, I text her the next morning, something about how you doing, or where are you, what, something. I don't remember what I said. And he has her phone.
Yes.
And he said something like, hey, come to the house, bring the truck. I'm like, what? And then he said something like, the truck's over at your husband's office. I'm thinking, this doesn't sound right. It's not. And I'm thinking, she lost her Fruit Loops or what? I'm not sure at this point. And
You're going with that one, Melanie. She lost her Fruit Loops is right.
it's something about getting the keys. I'm like, I don't have the keys. And then he doesn't know that. So he's trying to get me to help him find his truck. And I'm like, I don't know, so anyway, I ended up going over there and her car's not there. And I come in and two guys are like doing the locks because he busted the door down. And he goes, hi, Melanie. I'm like,
facts.
Hi, Charles. And I'm like,
facts.
Where's Lori? She's not here, is she? No, she's not here. I'm like, oh man. And so she's like, hey, come here, I gotta talk to you. And I was like, man, it was so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh. Now I look back, I'm like, oh, my heart breaks.
Oh, Candace, I don't think I knew that. You lived a lot of
So
places.
I'm so worried about her. She's lost her. She thinks she's some translated being that was married to Moroni, and she thinks I'm this Ted. Ted Snyder guy, and I'm like, I'm
So
just
he
sitting
referred to
there.
it as Ted?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
And so I'm like this.
I'm just saying, MG is Melanie Gibb.
I was just like, oh man, I don't know what to say. Oh man, it was bad. It was
Did you
so
tell
bad.
him about the truck, or had you guys not removed it? Or?
I didn't even know if we talked about the truck.
Kisma. Kisma?
He got his truck back.
How do you say that?
You know
It
what?
would have been after the Gilbert visit. is my
Probably.
guess.
So this was neat. This was really interesting. So anyway, I gave him a hug goodbye, and I didn't say much. I was dumbfounded pretty much.
I'm here
Anyway,
for all
finally, and I'm driving down the street. I called Chad because I knew that she was connected to it. And I was like, do you know where Lori is? He's like, I don't know. He acted like he was cool. It's like, he thought that I didn't know anything because
Cheese
was
May.
supposed to
Okay,
tell me
thank you.
anything.
Oh.
Cheese May.
Yeah. This was all supposed to be between her and him, but luckily she spilled it so I can share it in the future to everybody.
Right.
But she was not one that could keep a secret, I think. And anyway, so he was like, I don't know. And he was playing clueless. And anyway, so I get this random call and I'm like, who the heck's this? So she got another phone, I guess. And I just guessed it could have been her. And she goes, oh yeah, Charles took my purse. He stole it, da, da, da. I said, hold on, Jason Mal is parked like right in front of me by the park. I stopped by the park on the exit out. And I'm like, maybe this is some God intervention thing. I don't know why, he's an ex-police
Mhm.
guy, so
Yeah, I
he's
know.
sitting there, being a good officer, texting on the side of the road. I was like, that's so him. And so I giggled at that point. And so I was like, Jason, like, this just happened. He goes, well, go to the police. You need to go to the police and you need to report that her keys are stolen. I'm like, okay. So then I tell her, I was like, I think we should go to the police. And she's like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. So anyway, Charles had been in there before, but we didn't know it until after we got there. And then
Did you mention the truck thing to Jason too?
I don't, probably not. I don't remember.
Could you have? I only asked that
I
because
don't know.
I've talked to him too, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I'd have to guess.
Okay.
It's a yes or a no. I don't know.
I don't know is also an acceptable answer, right?
I don't know. I don't remember every conversation I've had about this whole crazy story. Unfortunately, I don't have that great of a recall. I wish I did. Yeah, so does that answer your questions?
Yes.
Okay. Did that fill in some blanks?
It corroborates information. How's that?
Okay. I know. All truth will come together if it's true.
So let me get this right. So you took Lori to pick up the truck at the airport. And Lori picked up the truck. Is that true?
Oh, I didn't go to the airport.
No,
That was
how did
Alex.
Alex went to the airport.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
Alex.
I did not go to the airport.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Alex.
That was Alex. Some people in the media got that confused
Okay.
too. I was like, oh my
So
God.
Alex
but I
took
went
Lori
there.
to the airport to pick up Charles' truck.
Yeah, and then they
They
put it
dropped it
somewhere.
off at a hotel.
Yeah, it could have
And then
been.
you
Yeah.
said that clothes were taken, one box to Goodwill and one to the behind the food storage.
Yeah, it was before Charles came back because I remember he was out of town. So
Okay.
yeah, he was out of town.
And you asked her specifically about the Goodwill, why you're doing that, and she said because the board. told
Well,
her.
yeah, I was like, why are you telling him all these? I'm trying to remember. She told me how much she told him. It's like, why are you taking all his clothes? That's like, I thought that was really out of control. And so I was like, why?
I agree.
No, I think I said something like, isn't this a bit extreme? I think that's probably more accurate what I would say.
Okay.
Isn't this a bit extreme? She's like, no. So that was before Charles got back.
Do you remember her behavior at the Gilbert Police Department when she was telling the officer about getting rid of his clothes?
I just remember she was pretty upbeat the whole time. She was kind of a happy,
like you.
Acting like, yeah. And I'm sure that you remember seeing that video coverage probably. I didn't even watch it. I couldn't go back and watch it. I was like, oh.
Oh, I've watched it.
I couldn't even watch it because I was like partially under her. And I was like, I don't want to see myself in that video. I'm tired of seeing myself on TV.
So tell me about Julie Clement.
Yeah.
Julie Clement.
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
And I was a little bit friends with her. It was Sulema that was friends with her.
Okay.
And Sulema and her.
Okay.
And they did energy work. That's how they knew each other.
Gotcha. Did you ever attend any kind of, my understanding, of prayer circles?
Yeah,
Okay.
Of course she did. What kind of
How
questions?
about one in August after Charles?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You remember going to the house?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So we met
Are you
at,
seeing that as in Julie Clement? Is that who you're asking about, Northwest?
so let's see, who was there? It was Melanie, Alex, I think Alex was there. Julie, Sulema, me, David, Chad, and Lori. That'd been it.
Okay.
I mean, so yeah, so they wanted to have a little prayer, yeah. And he
Yeah,
whipped out
prayer for
a
you.
Sears stone. I actually saw him with his
Forever, forever,
Attended?
You guys know that song? Say a little prayer for you. Yeah, Julie Clement. Yeah. So okay, I'm surprised you're familiar because I figured if anybody. So Julie Clement came up in another thing we were watching on a different live stream again, and we've been delving into this inner circle. I can't remember if it was Zulema's interview or if it was Serena Sharp's interview. The name came up, and it sounded like they were pretty well involved, and I was surprised because I literally, I maybe have it timestamped, but I literally was like, Julie Clement, who is that? Right? I had not heard the name before at all, and I'm like, who is this person? Like, what? And so that's why my ears perked up when I heard Julie Clement, because I'm like, they're asking this question to her, who's Julie Clement? And so we don't know. Her name just, the context from previously was like, it sounds like she was involved. She was there. I'm just like, why have we not heard? Why is she, there's nothing else of her, right? She hasn't testified at the trials. We don't have any interviews. So it's a great question. But yeah, Julie Clement did come up from some other thing that we watched. I just can't remember which thing.
I can't remember if I told that the first time. Sometimes I was like, do I need to share everything? Like,
What's the importance of that?
I don't know. He just had it in his hand. I don't know. He just had it. Maybe he just wanted to show that he had it. I mean, he didn't say anything about it other than I saw
songs from like the 60s.
What is it? What's a seer stone to you?
Well, there was no explanation. I could just guess. I could guess that you could do scriptures what it is.
Okay.
So he identified it as a seer stone.
Yeah, but he didn't go. He didn't talk about it. He just said, well, if he did, I don't remember. I don't remember saying anything about it.
Do you remember any talk or during that prayer about Hiplos?
Hiplos.
There's a good chance. Well, let's see. Charles was already dead, right? So
And
I would think they would have talked about that.
I think Julie had mentioned something, Clement had mentioned something about a dragon.
Yes, I remember her. So I didn't have any of their visionaries.
Okay.
That was not any, I don't do energy work.
Okay.
So this is all something that's their stuff. Okay. Just say that's their department.
Sure.
And it seems like, I remember Julie had this veil that seemed to be thinner where she could see something, so could Sulema. It seemed like there was a prayer where there was a dragon they saw, like I saw a dragon.
Okay.
Maybe they mentioned it a few times, but if they were in that little circle saying a prayer.
So, okay, so she's saying Julie Clement, just to be clear, Julie Clement had allegedly, right? The same power, quote unquote, as Zulema of seeing through the veil, sounds like.
I don't know why Hiplos would be mentioned.
That's what I thought
was
too.
already dead.
Was there a reason behind that particular prayer circle right there?
I'm trying to remember what, I remember them saying prayers. I remember Zulema speaking. And I'm trying to remember if they were talking about certain people that they were trying to help the spirits, like that they thought that they had the power to take these spirits out of the bodies.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember who she was focusing her energy on. And I can't recall. It could have been Brandon. It wouldn't have been Tammy, because Tammy had not been claimed anything. My guess is it could have been Brandon.
Okay.
But I'm not 100%.
Sure.
I'm not 100% on that. Or maybe it wasn't even. Maybe she was talking about the earth. Hold on, I'm just trying to remember this. Because Sulema thought she had the power to control elements and bring earthquakes about and those kind of things. So that might have been more of that kind of. It was so out there. I'm trying to remember that prayer. David wouldn't even remember any of it because he was so checked out. He was like so uncomfortable. He was so uncomfortable at it. Oh, he was so uncomfortable at it. Anyway, I'm sure he probably doesn't even remember he blanked out. They could have been talking about the earth. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. She just had this.
On that note, talk to me about Zulema. How well do you know Zulema?
Well, I knew her. She won't talk to me anymore.
Okay.
When I told her I was going to the police, it was done. So yeah, we were friends in the ward. We knew each other probably about a year, maybe a year less.
So you talked about how she had the power. She felt she had the power to control elements and bring about earthquakes.
Yeah.
How do you know how long she and Alex were dating together or anything like that?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was just hello, how are you? Getting to know you. It didn't happen until kind of right at the end. So if you want to know more about that, what I know about that is that she was content being single, but Chad and Lori had said, well, you and Alex had been married in another life, and you had been married, and you guys would be part of the 144,000, and you need to move up to Idaho, get married, and all that stuff. And she was like, no, I'm not getting the same answer. Just kind of tit for tat between her and Lori about that. But she was waiting to get answers. I remember one point, this was like right at the end. This was like my last time or few when I saw her, but she's like, I remember Chad and Lori in Hawaii. And me and Alex did a blessing through the phone because they were being attacked by Julie Rowe through a text. The text that went through, they hit it. All of a sudden, the this Gordon's woman. I know. We try not to smile during these moments, but I know. Okay, anyway, this is why the interview was hard with Nate. Some people thought it was like a little too lighthearted because you're like Nate, you can't help but go, this is freaking weird. Anyway, so she said, oh, me and Alex were in this prayer and we could see the dragon. His priesthood power was so amazing. You know, she just was so like wowed by it. And they helped cast that dragon out from Hawaii where they were. And anyway, supposed to help them. So, so let's see, they got married and so, okay, they moved there in September. So I would say, when did they start? Okay, so, so if we were at the dinner in August, they started getting more friendly then. They started getting more attractive. So I say that summer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's helping me. Yeah, just settings. If I can remember a place, and it seemed they started to kind of like each other in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
How close are you with Alex?
Friends, you know, yeah.
I mean, would you contact and call him on the phone for anything? Or he would send-
Very occasionally, but
Okay.
yeah, that would happen.
Describe his
Personality.
dedication. Describe his dedication to Lori.
So I remember in the beginning when they started talking about her, Joe, she was very protective of her. So there was a lot of like, you know, he would describe Joe as this horrible person and how, you know, he felt the need to protect his sister. And so I remember saying something about he got tased, he tased him in the nads, and he would say, and then something about the trunk. And he didn't care about if he went to jail for her. He was like, he felt like that was his duty to protect his sister. I don't know why he felt like that, but he did for some reason. Now later I understood why he felt like that more, is because what Chad told him. Chad told him later, you know, as they started getting into their crazy, more and more of their crazy doctrine, right? Then they would be introduced to him. In the beginning, Alex was a nobody. He'd just been here on Earth once.
Right.
But then later they would say, oh, now we understand you only have wits because you're only here for Lori. You didn't need to come here are exalted. So you were that angel that stopped Lemuel from killing Nephi. You were that angel.
Okay.
So he took it on as his identity. And so he felt like his job now was to kind of protect his sister and be that angel of whatever.
So you think he was 100% buy-in through
Well,
this?
I think so, because when he said he moved, he got a confirmation. Lawyer said, you pray about it, see if you should move to Idaho. And he said, 100%, I got this. Yes, I need to go. And then when I saw him, the last time I saw him, I said, this zombie thing, like I'm not 100% on that. And even Sulema said, yeah, I'm still getting confirmation on that.
Okay.
He goes, 100%. Melanie, 100%, I believe it. And I'm like,
okay.
So my guess is he fell for the whole thing. And then the interesting thing is he really had a lot of weight on Chad. He really believed him. He even gave him a patriarchal blessing.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Were you there for that blessing, or
No.
did you ever hear the blessing?
So that day that I saw on the grain belt when I was walking between two houses, when I said, do I want to have JJ? What is going on? I'm starting to feel like something. I'm still kind of in that shocking coming back from the whole police thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I was trying to figure out what was going on still. Anyway, so as we were walking, he has like on his phone. He goes, I don't know. He probably read a little bit. I don't remember what he said.
Okay.
He was like tearful about it.
Okay.
He was like really believing the Chad gave me this beautiful blessing. And I just cried like a baby. And Melly's like, I don't ever cry until after I have a blessing. I don't cry during it. Just say something about that. And I was like, just listening.
And this was in Idaho?
No, this was in
This was
Arizona.
Arizona.
This was Arizona, yeah.
Do you remember when that was?
Yeah, it was, well, okay, so 26th they called me, and 28th would have been Thanksgiving. The day they got married, what day was that, 29th?
November.
Yeah, was that the 29th? I think I figured it out on my paper somewhere. So it's the day they got married, it was that day.
Okay.
Okay.
Describe a patriarchal blessing to me in your terms. What do you think the importance of a patriarchal blessing is?
Well, the way I grew up believing patriarch is a patriarch is called of God. He's a particular person over a whole state that gives a blessing to a person about their life.
Okay.
So I don't know what Chad thought he could do, but he sure thought he played that role there.
So would you say that Chad was not authorized to give
No,
such a
absolutely
blessing?
not.
Okay.
No.
Would you say that a blessing, such a blessing would be like some sort of, like if you got it at a younger age, would be some sort of guidance for you? Or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It talks about your life and your gifts that you have, and maybe some things that could happen in your future if you're obedient. You could have those blessings happen to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
That being said, I just wanted to play. So this particular clip is, I have it labeled as patriarchal blessing.
Okay.
Just for purposes of recording. So just if you could just tell me whose voices you hear.
Okay.
Chad Daybell. It is
That's Chad.
November 24th, 2019, Sunday afternoon, 5:15 p.m. We are going to give Alex Lamar Cox a patriarchal blessing. Alexander Lamarco.
So the two people you heard voices were Lori and
That was
Chad?
Lori and Chad.
Okay. How about your relationship with Chad? I know that introduction was done, or whether it was done or not,
Yeah.
in that, in St. George.
Oh, with me or with them?
With the two, I think you went to see Chad in St. George was the first time they met, right?
That was the first time we met. I didn't go specifically to see Chad.
Correct.
Okay.
But
yeah,
But you'd known Chad before then?
I had known Chad before
Okay.
that.
Describe your relationship with Chad.
So when we first met, it was very brief. We just kind of introduced like, hey, I'm Melanie. I live in Arizona.
Okay, her relationship with Chad.
Lord myself, and I should probably mention I did classes probably. I become friends with Mike and Nancy.
Okay.
I don't even know if I can share that much. Just a little bit.
Okay.
If you read that forward of my book, that part he talks about that in that.
Okay.
I sent that picture to Rob. I don't know if you have a copy of that.
Okay. Okay.
But anyway, I have a copy of that, and he writes a little bit in detail, like he's remembering me. So
Okay.
that would be more detailed there.
Now, if you look at this hierarchy or circle or however you want to do it with trust and vibrations and scores and everybody else, who would you put at the core or the center of this group?
Chad and Lori were definitely, they consider themselves the head of that group.
Okay, and the group, was there a particular name for the group?
No, this is where a lot of people are like, is there a big following? Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll do my best to describe what I at least know.
Okay.
There's lots of other things I don't know because Chad's so quiet about his life. I don't
Okay.
know a lot about it. In Chad's little circle with Lori, there was just the people that I mentioned around that table, except for there were 3 other girls, but they kind of got kicked out of the group. And I think you know who they are, Serena, Christina, and Nicole. They got booted out like right in the beginning. So,
For any particular reason?
well, I remember Serena was calling Chad too much according to Lori. And so now we decided those two decided that she needed to be out
Okay.
because now she'd become a dark.
Okay.
She didn't do anything. Thankfully for her, she's out.
Okay.
Christina and Nicole were the first ones that Lori started talking to her. That was before I met her. So they were the first girls that she would want to ordain as part of the 144,000. Those were those 2 girls. And they left the group. I think they started getting suspicious. I think Christina in particular gets suspicious of Lori because she would call her out on some things at some point or question some things like, well, Chad, he's married, kind of, she was a little bit more smarter of the group of us. Anyway, and so she got suspicious. So then they started saying that she was all these things about her. She was getting darker. And then at some point, I remember, oh, this is bad. I remember this now. What do they call it? She wasn't 100% human. It's like she had like another, I can't remember what she referred to it as now. I want to say lizard or some lizard. Anyway, that's really out there.
There's a Geico commercial.
Yeah, kind of like she came from some other. Anyway, you don't even want her to know that she did that. You don't want that to come out.
So
But anyway, she's out there.
She's
Nicole's her best friend, so she's out too.
Okay.
Nicole's very sweet, and as you probably know. And so anyway, so really that was it as far as this whole kind of zombie talk. That was it. Now, Chad had Julie Rowe's friends. He left them. They are evil.
Mm-hmm.
They are mixed up with these energy work things. I think this has all come from energy work. Now that I look back and what the Lord has taught me personally, like, well, let me tell you what happened.
Yeah.
And because I watched it. And so it was just made to my mind, like, this is how an energy work opened the door. And so Julie Rowe, I believe, got him really, in between the two, who started what, that's what I'm still trying to kind of figure out.
Okay.
But between the two of them, she didn't know about the zombie thing. I think he came up with that, but she introduced it, or either Eric Smith, that follower of Julie's,
Okay.
came up with this multiple probation thing, I think. I heard it could have been from him. I don't know that that's true. I would not know that by somebody telling me that, other than recently, after all this has gone down, like, well, Eric Smith wrote a book on multiple probations. And I said, well, somebody mentioned it. Anyway, I've had people contact me. One lady contacted me that was a part of that little group of Julie Rose, and she was telling me how things were going. And I was like, we're comparing, like, I remember that, Chad doing that to Lori. Like, he had some power over her sexually. And she was saying that some guy did that to her. And she's like, that's just what they do in the group. And I'm like, that's their energy work or something that they do. I said, I don't do energy work. I don't know if she did energy work or not. But anyway, she got out of the group. Her husband was with her and helped pull her out. And she was so grateful, right, that she got out. But so that group exists. But I think Chad was just part of them. And then he kind of broke away from Julie because he got tired of her, according to when they first met. Chad and Lori at St. George, he said, I'm done with Julie Rowe. Like, she texts me all the time, but I'm done with her. Like, she's so da-da-da. Then there's all these energy groups out there, though. Either, Julie's introduced, she's done her little workshops, but even before, she did that. There's people doing energy works. And I believe that a lot of these groups, in Utah, Arizona, they're doing these energy, and a lot of these energy works are talking about multiple probations. So it's not that he created it so much. It's just that somehow that darkness got out somehow about this lie. I call doctors of devils. That's my word for it. And it got out, and it's kind of plagued some of those groups. So I don't necessarily think he's the founder of any of that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
But in this group, you would put Lori and Chad.
Yes, but in their particular thing, excluding everybody else, they were like the group, and they have these number systems. So you probably saw someone text like, "There's a group of," I remember, 72. Oh, see, what is in the church? You got your 12, then your 70, then 144, right? And so she's like, "Okay, we're in charge of 24." She said at one point she was in charge. They were in charge of like 24, like
I think
4
there
men
was-
and 12 women. Does that sound familiar? What is it?
I think what I
Remember that?
had
24,
found
20, yeah.
something similar, which is the dark and light scale of all the church
Leadership.
apostles.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's different. But this was, yeah, so she said basically in the spirit world, they had planned this out, that they were in charge of that group. And so that, anyway, so she was in a small scale. I don't know what he had going on. But she wasn't such a social butterfly. She was not the kind of person that wanted a big crowd and know a lot of people. That wasn't her.
Lori.
Yeah, she was more like, I'm just gonna be pro family, not. Yeah.
Do you think she took instruction from Chad?
Yeah.
Would she do anything without his, I hate to say authorization or at least insight?
In the beginning, I remember her saying things like, I said to Chad, like, I had this experience with around in the temple, and I felt like he gave me the patriarchal priesthood, and he would confirm it. Yes, you did. Yes, you were married to Morona. So he would confirm her little things, and then she goes, I felt like I was supposed to find these. Yes, you were, Lori. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then she said at one point, well, he's so good at giving revelation. I just go to him. I'm not as good as I used to be, or I'm not as good. He's really good at it. So I ask him. So she'd be asking him at this point, you're seeing a lot of text. At this point, is this person light or dark? This person, what are they, 4 point, That was their, and so you could see she would go to him for that, right?
So
He wouldn't go to her for that. She would probably just give him a name or something like that.
Do you have any idea how Lori would have found out about Charles and Adam's coming to Arizona to?
Oh. I guess it's that Charles would have just texted her, called her, and said he was coming.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember how she would have known about Adam. Maybe Alex could have told her. I don't know. I don't remember.
So if a message was on there, say on her phone, or it's basically said to Melanie Woodrow, I'm on the phone, I'm trying to find out what to do. Do you think that she would seek Chad for advice?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah, always.
Talk to me about Melanie Woodrow. What's your relationship with her? What's her part in
I'm
this?
friends with her. So Lori, as you know, raised her partially, so she feels like she's kind of like a mom to her.
Sure.
She would, in the beginning, Melanie I didn't think she was quite into it at the beginning. And then Lori just kind of camped on her for some reason, like Brandon. Lori went after Brandon, her husband, for some reason. He's gay, he's this, he's that. And then she would build a story up of how she tried to like, oh, look at this picture, nice and gay. Like it didn't look like it was gay, but anyway. And so she would build a story up about him being gay. And then, I don't know why she honed in on her so much. She just did.
Okay.
And then she, maybe because she thought she was such at a high level, because she got to the point where she's like, yeah, no, Melanie's exalted too. She was married to Peter, Jane, Peter.
Yeah.
And so Brandon would be her equal opposite in opposition to her. And so for some reason, Lori put all her energy into him. Thankfully, she didn't put her energy into me. Thankfully, I divorced Brandon, which was actually really good, because then that kind of got him out of the picture, which who knows what she would have done with that. And luckily, they liked him, so they kind of slept us along. But anyway, so she went after him. And at some point, he changed from Brandon being just dark to now he's a zombie, and he was part of Hitler's team.
Do you remember when that was that he changed?
When she started talking like that, near the end, I mean, it's always closer, it gets crazier at the end, right? It seems. Probably in the summers, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I really don't remember. Probably before then, or I don't know for sure. It was always evolving. Oh, we'll see. Wait, hold on. So I remember she was moving at the same time Lori moved in the house that Charles was shot in, because Melanie moved. She got a divorce. So this is how I got to remember. So I remember like placing them in my mind places. Probably she would probably call him a zombie by that point. Yeah, I would say so. So there we go. Yeah. So anyway, she just started saying that he was after her. I think this is what I got the impression from Lori, is that Melanie Chad would say through Lori, your house is bugged by Brandon. He's got all these little speakers and microphones. I was like, does he really? Like, you know, because I was thinking, I really was just like, really? Are they really in there? And then, oh, you're being followed by the, you know, some private detective, which, you know, he did have private detective at one point, right? But I don't know if he had one at that point. I don't know. But so she became paranoid. She became very paranoid, and they would call her every day, give her blessings on the phone, according to what Lori told me. And then anytime I talked to Lori, I didn't talk to her as much after I met David. It really started kind of weaning off me, and all the focus, it seems like now that I look back, all the energy was focused to Melanie. It was horrible what they did to her. And anyway, so she just got more and more paranoid, and he got more and more evil, according to them. And so then she was told by Lori, like, you guys, you got to move up here, that kind of thing. So yeah. What else do you want to know?
Almost like she just preyed on her.
She did prey on her. She put all her energy into her. Yes, she really did. Yeah. Trying to very much convince her that her phone was there. Everything was being bugged. You know, her phone, her car was being bugged, everything. She couldn't live a life. She had to get new phones all the time because they were getting taken over by the dark people.
So would I be missing anybody if I put, as far as a group of people, Lori, Chad, Zulema, Melanie Woodrow, Alex, and I think maybe you were on the outskirts somewhere, kind of teetering, ready to run and ready, you know. Things, or do you think maybe she was just kind of naive and stuff like that?
Well, she did know about it, but I think because of her, she believes her gifts in the energy world. She probably thought that she was just helping out. You know, she did not. I mean, if she met with them, Chad and Lori, it was probably a couple times, I might guess, unless they did more behind my back. But you know, like not around me.
Absolutely.
Maybe a few more times.
Because I think she's indicated that she's only saw like Chad like twice.
That's probably correct.
And she got introduced by Zulema.
Yeah.
And that they kind of, from what she's saying is she was almost felt like she was being used for her energy.
Probably. That's probably
true. That would be consistent.
True. I'd say she was being used for her energy abilities. Yeah. Okay. That sounds like it would be right. And I don't know how many times she met with Lori, but it wasn't a whole bunch.
So back to January. When January and Lori left Charles, and then Charles stayed in Texas.
So I knew she was in the hotel in the beginning, but then she went to Alex's house.
Is that the?
I don't even remember where it was because I was familiar.
Hyatt on Williamsville. Did you ever go see her over there?
Well, I think one time, her and Tylee were there one time.
Okay.
I think I only went to the hotel like maybe once or twice.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay.
So I don't recall how she was so going crazy that I didn't kind of catch every move she made, of course. And then when Alex, I guess he had that house, so she moved in with Alex.
Okay.
I don't think she lived anywhere else. And then she went to Hawaii. And that was kind of like her getaway home, you know, in the hotel.
Yeah.
Don't remember the name of the hotel. Please don't ask me to remember because I don't even remember. Especially because they're Hawaiian names. And I'm not get it. Anyway, and then she came back and where did she go?
Are you aware of her going to Idaho in March?
Is that the time she was living in Texas? Because I went to see her in Texas, and I think that was
March 19th to the 20th. Her and Chad.
Yeah, she did mention that
from
sometimes.
Idaho to Arizona.
He came down and did a class for a group of people.
Okay.
It wasn't at my house at the time, and I remember she was living in that house before the last house, the one that was in January when she lived in January, the one that not at the big house, but the next house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember this. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Where were we?
So she came back from Hawaii.
Yeah, and
it looks like she kind of moved around. So here to here. She went to Idaho, her and Chad in Idaho, and then it looks like in April that she was in Houston. Do you remember a thing in Houston that Chad might have gone to?
I remember when I got to Houston, she said, Chad and I are gonna go do some of our mission work together.
Okay.
And then I left, or I'm trying to remember if I got there or left. Anyway, between the time I got there and left, I was not there, but she said that she went to a hotel. I remember I was like, she's in a hotel. And then she said that she was gonna, she said she was supposed to go to Idaho portal. They were going to portal into Idaho Temple, but I'm thinking they probably were in a hotel now. It's probably a good guess.
Okay.
So, and maybe she never left that hotel. She totally made up the whole story. So there we go.
Did you go to an event there?
In Houston?
Yeah.
No.
So there was never an event there?
Oh, there was never an event in Houston. Oh, was there an event? Was there an event there?
So and that would have been April of 19.
That sounds, that could be right about that time.
Are you aware of a group called Vallow?
Yes.
Do you know anybody by the name of with a Vallow?
Doesn't sound familiar. I don't know.
Okay. Is there like is there a head person or somebody with a Vallow that you know who that? Anybody else you know from that group? Okay.
Arizona Mountain, so I know like one person died. Her name's Marty, so it should be Marty Gomez, but she passed away. And then Lorinda Luck, she'd been on there, and then there was a girl. And I wasn't real familiar with these people. I didn't get on Vallow very much. I was not one of these people that were on these forums, and I was like, read a little bit. Very periodically, I might like, hey, let's try this product. It's really good, or something like that. But I did not get into their exchange. So no, if the names scroll by, I didn't hold on.
So what is a Vallow?
So Vallow is a forum. Do you know what a forum is? Okay. So it's a forum who started teaching about, last day stuff. And so they put really good information. Actually, they had like gardening techniques to how to store food, current events. Then they got to the dreams and visions where they compiled a whole bunch of people's dreams and visions about things they saw in the future. And then anyway, so then they pull a thread out, and then people would start a thread like, this happened, this disaster happened in California today, or just all these different threads. And so people would make comments and all kinds of, they'd start one up, and anyway, they started off. So I got off there like, I don't know, a year or two ago, and the group drove me crazy. So I don't have I probably ever seen her name scroll past? Who knows? Maybe, but I don't know her personally that I know of. I mean, they have different names on there.
Sure.
So if she has a different name, I don't know.
So so being a forum, you wouldn't see something like send an email. Do you think that would want anybody to send an email to Chad Daybell that would say, my name is so-and-so from a Vallow?
Yeah, that would be something that would happen.
And
sure.
We're doing a young men's, young women's thing at this location.
It could be. It could be. Yeah, something like that could happen. Because you could send messages to people in there. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I didn't know how it worked because it was complicated, so I wasn't good at that.
So it was a Vallow is most like a forum or like
It's a forum.
threads, that type of thing. So it's not a company where there's somebody that's head in charge of it.
Well, yeah. Well, he took over. He bought it from, I don't know if that's the right word, but maybe bought it from Roger. He left it. And so he's the one that's kind of in charge of the whole thing. Okay. And he gets money. So he, it's like a fee to get on there. It's like $35 for a year or something.
Do you have information?
He would send emails to me, but I don't know personally.
Okay.
I mean, the group would send.
Okay.
It was like, blanket. We made you come back to the forum kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Which I deleted the other day. I was like, really? You're asking me of all people to come back to the forum? Do you even know that my name was sent? I was like, yeah, right. No, I don't know him personally, and I don't think I've ever talked to him personally. So, yeah. I'll just say prideful group. I try to stay away from him. It was bad. Yeah.
Think of anything else? I think that really helps us on the narrow some of that timeline.
Do you know who is?
Yeah. I know him first because he was the publisher for Jason Mao. And then he became the bishop also of that board that, I want to say, I get their names confused, Charles and Lori moved into the second house. So he was the bishop for that when she left him. He was that bishop. Okay. And he was also the publisher. So he helped me publish my little book. And I didn't know him. I've met him at a few events.
Oh my God, Melanie Gibb has a book?
I think I met him face to face just a few times. But nice man. Yeah.
So if I use the term, and I told you the term, and this is just your opinion, okay, and your knowledge of the church,
okay,
that I'm going to be like Nephi, or if it was a Nephi and Laban ending, what would that mean to you?
So I think they had that discussion. Alex and Lori talked about something about a Laban and the Nephi thing.
Okay.
So that would mean to me, that part where, well, I don't know how long you've been looking about like that
I'm
one.
learning so much.
So, well, okay, there's a story of Nephi who, there's a guy named Laban who's, they're trying to get the plates from him. And so he would have to cut off his head to be able to get retain those plates. And he was more of a wicked man.
Laban was?
Laban was wicked. And so anyway, he would have to, the spirit would move upon Nephi. So they felt, they've been moving upon Nephi. Say you need to cut his head off because he's not, it's gone 3 times to him now, and he's not giving you the plates. And so anyway, the spirit says you need to cut his head off, and he does it, and he's horrified by it because he doesn't really want to do it. He's never killed anybody before, but he does it, and he was able to dress in the clothes of Laban and go get and retrieve the plates, and then they were able to go out and leave Jerusalem. They went from Jerusalem, and then they left from that area.
Nephi and Laban's clothing.
And so my guess is that when they were talking about that, which, I didn't know what they were going to do, I didn't know all these things, but if I could look back and understand that now, that would probably mean like he would need to sacrifice probably Charles's life is my guess. That's what they're referring
and let me back
to.
up. You overheard a conversation?
I heard them slightly talking about it.
And when was this?
And I, probably right before Charles came down, or days, I don't remember if it was days before it. I don't remember if she was talking on the phone with somebody. I kind of was just briefly hearing it, but I can't remember if Alex was sitting there or if they were on the phone. I can't recall. I just remember it just sounds familiar. I'll just say it sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure it was before he passed away. That's what it feels like to me anyway. And so my guess is that they felt like that was my guess, interpreting it not knowing that at the time, but now that they felt inspired that was the moment where they could take Charles' life. Not Charles, they really felt intended. Well, at least Alex really felt Hiplos inside there.
Okay.
So
in essence, they wouldn't be really taking the life of Charles Vallow.
No.
They would be taking the life of Hiplos.
Yeah.
Or
Way to rationalize it.
Garrett or Ned.
Yeah, that's what they believed.
Are you understanding that, because they gave 3 names for Charles, other than Charles. So are all 3 in Charles at the same time?
No,
or-
one would move on, and the one would get pushed out, and then the other one would take over.
Okay.
So Garrett was next, and then Garrett got pushed out, and then Hiplos stepped in.
And that would be fitting their definition of a zombie? Okay. And their way of getting rid of zombies then was at some point either praying or whatever to end that entity's life.
Yeah, so that entity would just leave, just like Garrett left, just like Ned left. So
So
to
they-
me, it was very surprising that that he died the way he did. I was like, oh, okay, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was very unusual.
So they leave and they're never to come back again because you said, I'm surprised that they were mentioning Elos again because Charles was already dead.
Right. So once he was dead, like where would Hiplos be? I mean, they could have, I don't know, I don't remember. But I would guess that Hiplos was gone.
Sure.
And if they mentioned him again, I really don't remember anything about Hiplos again.
So a particular body can only be consumed by one dark spirit
at a time.
Well, in the beginning, so it was Ned only could be in there, or at least that was my understanding, and then he would leave in this other one. But Hiplos was different because Hiplos was like a combination of evil spirits combining self, but they weren't.
Wow.
So okay, in our religion,
Yes.
we believe that premortally, you have people that came down to the planet and became us, right? We're now who we were spiritually, we're now here. But there was a third of that never came down here and never got bodies. They were saying that would never happen, that there would only be somebody that had lived before, like a Ned who lived on the earth and the Holy Spirit went in him. But they were saying, oh, no, say he's getting more trickier. His tactics are getting better and better. They kept saying that he got better and better. That was Chad's probably reasoning why things didn't work out the way he thought they always would. It was his way. That's how I started figuring Chad out. He'd say, oh, that didn't happen. Oh, well, it's because of that. It's always, oh, it's because of that. So now there's Hiplos. Why wasn't Charles dying? They thought they had all these powers. Oh, they would come up with another reason why he wasn't dying. Oh, now it's Hiplos. Now it's all these combinations of.
Literally, this is what I was talking about a little while ago about they can't prove that they're actually having these powers, right? So they keep coming up with another excuse as to why the person's not dying. Interesting. This is literally what I was saying. They couldn't deliver, so they had to change it.
That was Chad's probably reasoning why things didn't work out the way he thought they always would. It was his way. That's how I started figuring Chad out. He'd say, oh, that didn't happen. Oh, well, it's because of that. It's always, oh, it's because of that. So now there's Hiplos. Why wasn't Charles dying? They thought they had all these powers. Oh, they come up with another reason why he wasn't dying.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's Hiplos. Now it's all these combinations of they're getting smarter. So there's at least I remember Alex saying something about it was like 1,000 of them, or somebody said it. It's like 1,000 of them, or it felt like it.
Yeah.
So it was a combination of all these entities that never came through. So they took over his body. So that's what they're saying.
Okay.
So
Alex specifically told you he was so strong during this fight.
Yeah.
That it felt like there was 1,000 spirits.
Yeah.
And Alex never disclosed to you that he was hit with a bat, just that he was in a fight.
No, I think he told me he was hit by a bat too. I think I remember both of them saying that. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember it not, doesn't sound familiar.
How long were you supposed to stay there? And then did you show up on the 9th?
It was just like going back because I didn't live far.
Okay.
So I go home, and then I remember sometimes trying to call her, and she was just like, "Not tonight's not a good night." So I think the total times that I've gone there.
But that night, you spent the night on the 9th, and the next morning you said she got up and said you need to leave.
Yeah.
Did you find that kind of surprising?
Yeah.
She would,
Yeah.
Was it early? Was it what time?
Well, as soon as I walked out of my bedroom, I remember, gosh, it was 7, 8 in the morning, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't one to sleep in, so.
And she says that Charles and Chad,
It's
Charles.
coming down.
is
If
coming
I
down
remember
to
what she
Florida.
said today, so that was the 10th, that would have been the next day, right?
So it would have been the night, you spent the night there the night, and the 10th is when you woke up, and then the 11th is when you.
So then she must have said he was coming down tomorrow. Yeah. He's coming down tomorrow or today. I thought it was, she said
Okay.
today. But anyway, yeah. And I was like, why? You know, that was,
Yeah,
I was like, why? Like, why would, what reason can a normal person like a policeman say, this guy's coming down and kill me? Like, I didn't understand that. If you think he's evil, it's really, what is the reason? Like, how do you know these things?
Yeah.
So, you know, it was a little off, definitely, for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did she ever mention calling the police or anything like that as far as she felt so threatened by him that she needed to do something? Or
She seemed like she was busy, like
I know.
talking on the phone.
You know.
She was like, you know, trying, I just got this feeling she had a storm going on. And
A storm?
did Alex ever say why he spent the night? Did he ever tell
I
you
think,
why he
I
spent the
think,
night?
well, I don't remember who said what, but I remember his point of staying there is to protect her, make sure she was safe.
Okay.
Something like that, like he was gonna be with her. I knew that he was gonna be there. I think she said, yeah, he's leaving, you need to leave. Alex is coming to spend the night, and he's gonna protect me, something like, and he's coming down. I really didn't think a lot about it, because when I didn't talk to her till however many days afterwards, and then she calls me and she tells me what happened, so I'm like, what?
Right.
So I didn't expect any of that to happen. I thought, oh, they'd work it out, you know, they're not really gonna try to kill her.
Right.
I didn't get, like I said, I didn't get in the drama. I was really
Yeah.
outside that drama circle, so I didn't really ever expect to hear that would happen. That was very surprising to me.
I don't
And
buy
then 4
that.
days later, you talked with her again, and that's when she asked you. So
Yeah, I think it was that many days. You probably know better than me. I don't remember. It just seemed like that many days.
Anything else that you can think of? Regarding zombies, regarding getting rid of people, it's specifically into the Charles. Yeah.
Which I remember her saying things like, you know, Charles is a nice guy. I miss the old Charles, like, in there. She's like, I didn't even have a proper burial for him. Like, she didn't get to say goodbye. She was always being chased by these demons. She'd say stuff like that.
This was after his death.
I don't know, at some point. I don't even know if it was after or before. Probably was before.
Okay.
You know, it's just like, he was a nice man. And she'd say nice things, kind of, but then she'd try to paint, it seems to me, she just tried to paint a story to be able to justify her reasons for leaving or whatever. And I encouraged her, I was like, why don't we get a divorce? And, you know, you probably heard that, me say that.
And why not?
And because, you know, they lose their exaltation. At least Chad would. I can't remember if she said she would, but he would.
Obviously, you made a comment earlier about the vibrations. Your vibrations increase every time you go to the temple, and your veil gets thinner, and you can teleport and all these different things. According to them.
According to them.
What do you think would have happened to her if she had her temple recommend taken away?
Then she wouldn't have been able to go to the temple anymore. She would have been sad about that, but I'm sure she would have kept on doing her crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Chad, whatever they really did, I don't really know.
Okay. You obviously think that was very important to her? Because she was going pretty much every day, is that my understanding?
She was. I mean, she, you know, I don't know how it went when she would travel and got all the price. I don't know how often she went after that, but she went often.
Yeah.
It was in the beginning before she met Chad. It was like an everyday thing. I think after she got Chad, I think it started lessening up to sometimes, but it was definitely on her priority list. Even when she was white, she would fly over to the main island to go to the temple there.
How much of this, and this is just a personal question, nothing kind of proof of case or anything, how much do you think of this was religious based as opposed to?
Interesting.
Money and sex.
Huh.
Absolutely.
So those are some good questions.
Interesting.
I think at the beginning it was religious. Okay, I think that their lofty ideas of who they thought they were and their gifts.
Wow.
And manipulations by the dark side too, because I know that things can be manipulated to think things are light when they're not. Okay, I know that's real. But I think when they met, it was kind of like they were like, oh, I know this, you know this, kind of like, let me show you what I know kind of feeling. And then it got into the sex. And I think sex was the driving force behind the new theories he came up with, new doctrine that he came up with. I think that sex, and you know, a lot of people say it's money. I think the convenience of having the money was there so they could be together and do all their sexual things personally. I don't know how much, I think they just thought the idea probably the money was there just so that they didn't have to work.
So this is very interesting. I'm going to back this up. They're asking her literally what her theory of the case is, basically. Why did they do this? That is very interesting.
It was in the beginning before she met Chad. It was like an everyday thing. I think after she got Chad, I think it started lessening up to sometimes, but it was definitely on her priority list. Even when she was white, she would fly over to the main island to go to the temple there.
How much of this, and this is just a personal question, nothing kind of proof of case or anything, how much do you think of this was religious based as opposed to?
Money and sex.
Absolutely.
So those are some good questions. I think at the beginning it was religious. Okay, I think that their lofty ideas of who they thought they were and their gifts, and manipulations by the dark side too, because I know that things can be manipulated to make things are light when they're not. Okay, I know that's real. But I think when they met, it was kind of like they were like, oh, I know this, you know all this, kind of like, let me show you what I know kind of feeling. And then it got into the sex. And I think sex was the driving force behind the new theories he came up with, new doctrine that he came up with. I think that sex, and you know, a lot of people say it's money. I think the convenience of having the money was there so they could be together and do all their sexual things personally.
Mhm.
I don't know how much, I
Do all
think
their
they just thought
sexual
the idea
things.
of the money was there
Gross.
so that they didn't have to work maybe,
Gross.
but I don't know. So in the beginning, I think it was religious. I do. And I just think it just, and I think this is really what I think. I thought a lot about this, as you can imagine. I didn't know she was a manipulator because I just met her. So I didn't, and I'd never been around manipulation before. That's a new concept to me. I've never seen that. I don't know how to do it myself. I don't get how it works. So when she was manipulating, and what's the other word? You know, lying or deceiving and manipulating. It was just something I wasn't aware of, or it was foreign to me. And so anyway, as I came to understand, looking back like a few times, I would think she would lie, like when she did the police thing. And then remember, this is a white lie. Little lies are a big deal to me. You do a little bit, you do a big to me. She'd say, oh, Melanie's gonna come over. I told her I wasn't feeling well. And I'm like, but you aren't feeling well. Like to me, I wouldn't make that up. That's not my personality to say, pretend to somebody I'm doing something I'm not. That to me, you should always just say how you feel. Anyway, so I thought that's weird. She's such a great person. Why would she make up a little lie like that? So that's the only time I can remember any lies. I'm sure there was tons of them going on, but I didn't know it. I was like, no way she would make stuff up. She's too good of a person because she was just so sweet and loving and kind in the beginning. I'm like, there's no way she'd make this stuff up. But anyway, so I think this is what is interesting to me now, looking back. Because of her manipulate and deception, she would find somebody that could manipulate, like he was manipulating, deceiving too. He tricked her, she tricked him. They tricked each other so well that they were their equal opposite, evil match for each other. Like they got exactly what they put out. You know, what you put out comes back to you. I think that's what they did for each other. And I think that's why they got in the mess, because if he would have done it with me or anybody else, would have been like, I'm not manipulating that. That's not going to work on me. But because she was that way too, I think that's why it worked.
In the time that you've known Chad, have you known him to have been in any other extramarital relationships other than?
I know his didn't feel like there was anything like that.
I did hear a report on that she had claimed that something happened, but I don't know.
I don't know that that's true.
Okay.
I would not know that.
Okay.
I did sound like that wasn't true when I heard it. I was like,
Okay.
Yeah, so it didn't sound like something I would necessarily put him with. So.
Okay. Any talk? Well, obviously, Tammy died in October. Did any talk? Did you weren't talking to Lori at that time, then, right? Or
in October.
Mm-hmm.
Not very much.
Did she ever mention anything to you about Tammy's death?
Yeah. Well, I talked to the Attorney General all about Tammy.
Okay.
So that's all with them.
Okay, perfect. I'll let them know.
4 hours.
Okay.
Very nice people.
Yes. We're not 4 hours.
Yeah. You would have spent 4 more hours on that. I'm like, oh.
Well, honestly, you could go into this for days.
It hurts.
It does.
Like afterwards, you kind of jangle. You're like, I knew these people, and this is like, and everybody knows about me in the whole world.
Yeah.
I don't want everybody to know about me. You know, I'm like, oh.
I work on it for a day and I'm jangled for a week. So it's,
You can imagine what I've gone through. It has been a living hell, but I'm stronger.
Yeah.
No, I'm very stronger because of it. And there's many things I'm grateful that happened to me and not somebody else.
Right.
Because I got to experience something at a very high level that was deception. That if I could consider my armor, I had a weak link in this deception area. And now it's fortified. And now I know a lot more about deception. I'm grateful for that knowledge. I'm not grateful for what happened. I'm horrified that people died because of these crazies.
Yeah.
When somebody like Chad comes along and he seems so humble and sweet and kind, it looks like a typical Idaho boy, you know? You don't think that they're lying to you, because I don't get the lying to deceiving. I don't understand that. And so I just thought he was who he was. And so I have really started to see the flags of deception now, like little things along the way. We're talking about all the time. We're getting all these answers all the time. No, God does not work like that.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell you what to do. Every time you wake up, he gives you a list of things to do. And I thought, wow, they have better skills than me, because I don't really hear from God like that. You know, I said, he sees visions all the time. He's got it, and I don't even think he has visions. I think he's making all this stuff up.
Well, good for her.
But I did in that first interview I was talking about it. I look back, I'm like, I don't think I was accurate anymore. I think that I have come to observe more and realize, like, because I've become friends with a lot of people, and was a really neat person I got to visit with, and she, he wrote a book for her about her dreams and mostly about her near-death experience. When she was sharing that with him, he didn't disclose his. That's like if you and I were talking and I said, look, you tell me all about your near-death experience. I'm like, I'm going to tell you about mine.
Right.
He didn't do that. And so she's like, I think he took stuff from her and Julie and other people. I think he just kind of story writer. And then he knew the scriptures. I believe he knew them really well.
Absolutely.
And I think he just used
He
that.
did one. He was on a mission, right? I thought they had his partners.
Yeah, he was on a mission.
Stories.
Yeah, he was a missionary. Yeah, but I just think that he was really good at conning people, and I think he was good. I think he was a good writer as far as pretending and making. He said it was fiction, but he was taking other people's stuff and making it sound like he would say in the backdrop, you know, to his friends or people like me or Lori, like, well, you know, these are things I really saw, but I make it like fiction.
Yeah.
So that would be his safeguard. I think he's saying this is fiction. I didn't say this is real. That would be his safety net.
Back to the armor. You mentioned armor, and I've heard that term.
Oh, it's in the
in my
scripture.
lifetime.
It's scriptural,
Yeah,
yeah.
your
Armor
armor
of
of God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever reach out to Chad about maybe somebody you feeling vulnerable or needing a blessing or anything like that? Did you ever
Yeah,
reach
maybe
out?
I could have. I remember one time my son was sick, and I said, "Do you think you could give him a blessing?"
Okay.
Something like that. And he said, "This was interesting. You'll be interested to hear this." My son he was sick, and I was ministering to him like I always do, essential oils, or I do a lot of healthy things, put cold rags. I was very involved in helping my kids feel better. I did not do energy work, and because I didn't know how. Anyway, so I was doing my best as mom. This mom knows how to. So he slept through the night. I started to feel better. He woke up, he started to feel better, and then I was like, the fever comes flying back on. You know that when your kids do that? So anyway, I thought, I'm just going to see a check and help out because I've heard he could do that to other people.
Yeah.
I said, hey, he's got this fever. Do you think you could do something to help? Something, I don't know the words I used, probably said a blessing or something like that. I jump in the shower, come out, I go 10 minutes maybe, and it's completely better. And I'm like, hey, he didn't text back, I don't think. I just said, hey, somebody goes, oh, I extracted this, how do you describe it? I extracted some entity or some dark something from him, something from virus. And I was like, well, whatever you did, he's better.
Yeah.
Now, we can push all of the ideas away. What I really think happens, and this is between you and me as a person, not as a police department, is that when you open dark doors, it gives you power to do things that are manipulating and deceiving, which mirrors things that look like they're healings. Yeah. And if you're given that power to put a virus on somebody, right, you can have the power to put that back off and say, hey, that power to do that. I think that's just how I did it. Because I know that he did that for other people. I think that was, I don't think I ever asked him to bless me personally, maybe, but I can't recall.
So a common thing, like I think you mentioned, I did see something else, maybe with a reference to Zulema. I removed this from you and I've increased your.
Yeah, that's
your
like
armor.
something he would say.
Okay.
Your spiritual armor, which would not be an unusual Christian term to use.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just to ward off any kind of negative or dark spirits or something.
Yeah. So he thought he had this power to do it. And Sulema would say, I remember her saying many times, I don't know what he did, but all this darkness is off me now. I totally feel better. And so they dialogued more than I did because she had all these things that I did not even have.
Okay.
So they would be on, and that's why I think it was harder for her to come out of this, is because I think that energy work got her stuff in, and I think that she really thought that was from God, and it wasn't.
Have you talked to Melanie Gibb since, or did I ask you that?
No, you didn't ask me that. So I haven't. I tried to talk to her, hey, people aren't zombies. Brandon's not a zombie. That was back. I remember it was around Christmas time, right after I told the police everything. I talked to her that time, and she goes, I can't talk, and the phone's being bugged. So she wasn't free to say how she could really, we can have a real conversation because there was no microphones. Yeah. I encouraged her that it wasn't good. I encouraged her everything I could to what I had come to understand. Right. And then she texted me in the middle of the night, I don't know, but weeks later, maybe January, I don't remember. But anyway, and she's like, do you remember the name of a song? By Lord Daybell. We love Lord Daybell. And I couldn't remember it. We ended up talking, and I just continued to try to counsel her, and she continued to, I can't really share much. Yeah. Then after that, I never spoke. Well, did I speak to her on the phone? I can't recall speaking to her again, but I remember trying to text her hey, I'm praying for you. You want to talk? I was trying to do my best to try to hold her. I was like, come on, I hope that you're not involved in anything. I didn't know if she was. And she just was like, I'm busy. Thank you for the prayer. Just short little answers. Then I saw her at the temple only once. I didn't talk to her, but I saw her, and it was Sulema, Summer, and her sitting on the couch. I walk into the celestial room. It's just a room where you sit down, and I go, first I saw her, I thought, oh, I can talk to her, and I saw Sulema there. I'm like, oh. And so Sulema was kind of facing down like that in prayer, and then she kind of came up, and then I just turned and sat over here, around the corner. She didn't come to talk to me. I was bummed. I really wanted to talk to her. And then I just said, hey, so I get temple, and
Random girl,
so there was
new member, love it.
So yeah, I think that was maybe the last text or two, and I have not tried to contact her now that she's made statements about her belief structure. I just decided
maybe we'll have one.
I just don't think there's a place for me right now for life, so.
Did she ever come over on the night you spent the night at Lori's on the night? Did she come over?
I don't remember. I don't remember seeing her. She could, she couldn't. I mean, she danced quick. I don't know. I just don't remember details like that, like people coming in and out, unless it's specifically.
Where did you sleep in your Lori's that night?
So, okay, there's a back. So if you go to the kitchen, you take on the right, there's a JJ's bed in that bedroom, and then there's a bigger bedroom back here, and I think Tylee's was on this side.
Okay.
I've been in that back one.
The pink room?
I know it had some crazy stuff on
The
the wall.
mattress on the floor?
Yep, mattress on the floor, just a big queen size.
Okay.
And it seemed like she might have had more than another one at one point, but anyway, it was a queen one, and
Was there food storage in that room? Do you remember if it was?
yeah, a little, in the closet, there was a little bit, but yeah, there wasn't, other than the bed.
Okay.
I think it was, yeah, that's.
I will say real quick. So as far as so for members, any new members here, so we already have quite a bit of members only content, even though it's relatively new. You'll notice that the badges for, the membership badges that you guys see in other channels, they're different scrolls of the world. So with each month, it's going to change to a different scroll of the world. Shout out to Iowa Backyard Cam, because at month 2, that squirrel of the world is actually Squeaky the squirrel, an actual squirrel who exists because of our squirrel friend Iowa. And it's a baby picture of Squeaky. But also our next upcoming members only live stream will be another trivia night. And the topics will include famous quotes, first in history, movie trivia, musical theater trivia, trial trivia, and 90s music. So we've had a lot of fun with our members only live streams and all kinds of stuff that we've been doing. So that'll be the next members only live stream. I don't know yet when that will be, maybe tomorrow. Although having said that, I'm discovering so many more new things that regarding Lori's inner circle that I'm thinking that I was going to maybe try to get the members only live stream for tomorrow night, but we may end up doing more with this. But anyway, I'll always keep you guys apprised. Other thing I should mention too, in the Discord, there is a thread for members only. Like I think it says members only requests or members only recommendations, but I also will keep updates there too for members only things. But also if you guys have any specific requests for members only stuff or recommendations or whatever, you can always post those there as well. So yeah, so there you go.
Room I spent the night. I think I only spent the night. I want to say it felt like about 3 times.
Okay. But next morning, the 10th, she says you need to go.
And Alex was not there on the 9th when you were there.
No, I'm trying to see when he was, if I ever, I know I've seen him over there before, but I don't remember when it was. I don't remember him. I think I was gone for it. He came over, I think I was gone. I didn't see him. I'm just trying to remember when I did see him. Oh, my brain hurts.
I know.
I'm trying to, my memory is not the sharpest always, and so I'm
It's
trying
pretty good.
so.
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, I know. I try, and some things leave an imprint because it's so bad.
Right.
You know, it's like, I don't want to remember that.
You gotta remember, we're asking you questions, what might have been just like mundane stuff.
I know.
And we're asking you to remember because now
Exactly.
it might be important.
Exactly. I am here to help wherever I can.
Awesome. Well, I get your number, and if I think of anything else, I'll probably just call you as fast as you know the phone. And make you come back in here.
Yeah, I think that. I'm just
Likewise, if you
thinking-
think of something else that,
You know, one thing that I did think that was important,
Mhm.
that recording that I did. I said, why would Alex say this? You know, I don't know where the, how did I say it? I don't want to know where the kids are,
Mhm.
and then they won't be able to be found. I just kind of combined it, but that was from Split Limit, that information was, that particular strip. I just threw into one when I was speaking to her, because they both came from either me or her. But anyway, I don't know why Alex would say that. I didn't even want him to know. Remember, that's what she said. I didn't even want him to know. And he doesn't even know where the kids are. I think she said something like, well, however I said it.
Yeah.
So to me, that says we can't blame Alex. If you're an attorney,
Mhm.
she can't put that on Alex when she says we didn't even want Alex to know. So if they're going to try to put the blame on him,
Yeah.
that I think that part of the recording is helpful.
Okay.
Would you agree?
And in regards to the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could be helpful to be used against her personally.
Yeah, there's a lot.
We never heard
I know
that.
there's a lot of evidence. I know that.
That's interesting.
We have not rolled out the run yet because you
I
guys
don't think we
know
ever
so
heard
much more than I do, even though I know the weirder kind of the definitions to what you're reading about.
You help us to corroborate.
You have the Rosetta Stone for us.
Yeah, well, someday the police and I are all gonna get to a powwow. It's all good and done. It's been a hellish year, but it's been great learning for me. And I'll just say that I'm grateful that if anybody had to go through it, I'm glad it was me and not somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of that, the reason why I was involved, I would say, is because I am very trusting.
Mhm.
That's my weakness.
Well, I've come across a couple people like that.
Yeah, just so trusting.
That they're just trusting, and I hate to use the word naive.
But there's some gullibility there with trusting
Yeah,
too much.
absolutely.
You don't have a tough skin that area yet.
I mean, yeah, honestly, there's a difference though. I mean, to believe in what they were saying, come on.
That's what was like, I trust everybody. I'm a huggy person. I trust everybody. There's good in everybody.
And there is good in everybody.
Well, especially when you're dealing with religion.
Yeah.
If you're talking at a level of religion, Christianity, you do have that trust.
Yeah.
And to me, there's really
right.
no difference in, I mean, look at some of the scandals involving, priests, bishops, anybody in a high level of authority.
Can be manipulated.
Absolutely.
One of the definitions that I read in the Bible dictionary I thought was fascinating. It was under the title devil. And it said, because I'm researching a lot of stuff right now. It's been very interesting. My own little research going on. And it says, one of Satan's greatest tricks is to convince, I don't know if that's the right word, people that they are following God when they're not. And you think about all the other religions, and I'll just say in general people, how many people kill people in the name of religion?
I mean,
gone in and raped people, villages, right? In the name of God. That is one.
It's
worship
that's
of
a
religion.
whole thing. We could have a whole chat on that, right? I mean, so many people use religion to justify killings, and it's been happening since humans have existed.
And so this is just a version of thinking they're these great people, and they still do because they're not remorseful yet at all. They're still in this cloud. And I'm hoping that bubble is going to pop one day, and I never want to speak to them until that bubble pops and go, do you know how much he deceived you? You killed your kids, girl. Or he killed them, or Alex killed them, or something, but she's involved. I feel like all three of them were involved. And
You did mangle that, for sure.
You need some serious prayers, girl. You need some help. Like, it's going to be a rude awakening. You hope she gets that before she dies.
But her point is a good one, which is people kill in the name of religion, right?
It's to that point. I'm hoping that she will have that portion power. You don't really have to talk, but your sister's pretty tall.
I didn't know I had some bad memories.
Detective Coons. Okay, so it just went to the next video on my playlist here for all this stuff. So here's what we're going to be doing, guys. So what we're going to be doing next is that in 45 minutes, we're going to be doing the latest Karen Reed filings. Another new filing just posted. So that will be, and it won't be a long stream, but we're going to get caught up on the latest filings there here in 45 minutes. And then tonight, I believe we might do our bonus round for Alex on Cross. Tomorrow we will be doing, I will definitely be doing the next follow-up for Lori's Inner Circle. We will watch the Julie Rowe interview with Nate Eaton. I don't even know that I've seen that, which I don't know how I missed it. There must have been a lot of trials going on at the time, but we will be watching that. We're also going to watch, we've got more Melanie Gibb. We've got Melanie Gibb's testimony at trial. We've also got her interview with Nate Eaton. It might be more interesting to do the interviews with Nate Eaton back to back. And then there's other things as well. Like, for example, this one here on the screen, Jason Mao being interviewed. And then also Happy Annie had mentioned she had seen something new from Nate Eaton. I've got so much on this playlist, guys. You have no idea for related to this case. And there's just tons to go through. But the priorities will be definitely the Julie Rowe interview. That'll be something else. And again, I don't even think I've seen it. Wow. And so that, and then, like I said, Melanie Gibb's interview, maybe some of her testimony. We may get to the members only live stream tomorrow, but again, it just sort of depends on all this stuff. That might end up being a little bit later. And then, of course, we will be covering Monday with closing arguments for this case. And I also expect a verdict as well. But that'll be it for this particular one, guys. She got the gist across, but yeah, I totally agree. Welcome again to all the new members or people who renewed their memberships. We'll look forward to seeing you guys there at that members only live streamed that I just mentioned. But for now, that'll be it, guys. But I love y'all. Thanks for being a squirrel, and squirrel out.